Okay, man, we all the way in here again. When we first met, none at all. Possible for you. My mission. My mission is clearly only to deal with the kingdom. It is. So nothing is going to deter me from bringing the earthly kingdom here to this earthly realm. You understand? Not the threat of death, nothing. In the kingdom, in earth as it is in heaven. You dig? I don't play no games at all. You have to, on the level that requires your blood. If you do not offend Yah on that level, you cannot die. Point blank, period. So you can keep trying to deter me all you want. It's not gonna happen. I only fear God. I don't fear a man or a woman.
Shalom, Mark.
Shalom.
Back. How you doing? How you doing?
Doing great, doing great.
We got about 5 minutes before we get started. Give everybody an opportunity to get on. We'll start promptly at 12. Regardless of who up here or not. So, for meeting right after this.
Now, do you have another lesson at 6?
Say again?
Do you have another lesson at 6?
I got a team meeting at 6 o'clock. What time?
Right, on here, right?
Yeah, it's on Zoom.
Okay. I'll just make sure I got the timing down packed. That'll be 8 my time.
Actually, it'll be 6 your time.
Oh, okay, got it.
4.
Okay.
See, track my time. We had people that was registered right now. So I don't know if everybody had the same data on the 12 o'clock, whatever time theirs was. We'll keep pressing forward.
The word got to go out, and it won't come back to him void.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. How was your week?
Wow. Beautiful, lovely, peaceful.
Great. Mine was pretty much the same. It was busy, but
Yeah. Had to work a lot.
yeah. I can't wait to walk away from this 9 to 5.
You there?
I'm almost there, though. Almost there.
Okay, no problem. I'm working right.
All right, it's 12, so we can go ahead and get started. Work is going to be said.
Is defined in united or joined. What does unity mean to you?
We truly have it.
As a people, years from the color of our beliefs. Yet, the denominator is not, but the trial because of.
Just before his assassination, Martin Luther King, he was integrated with the burning house. So long, but we continue to fight from a safe distance. We can rebuild from the ashes.
Bring us complete like pain, like things. We can have our differences that we live to erase.
Once united, how do we put out there and bring down this system? So I'd like to officially welcome everyone to BBOC Corp presentation. If you're not aware already, BBOC actually stands for Buying Back Our Communities. Today, my name is Yanaib, buying Yasharala. To being able to go through this entire presentation with everyone. Questions that's asked and takes about 2.5 to get through. So I would try to answer all the questions that you might have and get through this presentation as possible. So the question that has been that is probably on everyone's mind right now is BBOC. That is the intent of this presentation, is to be able to give you a better understanding and it can us as a people and as a nation, as well as a community and on an individual level. Also, Black Wall Street, pretty sure everyone is familiar with it. The Black Wall Street, very successful time. But a lot of people say other communities that were out there that were maybe not as Black Wall Street successful. As my question that I have right now is the method in which Black Wall destroyed. It could what it actually didn't.
For me, right. So let me. That's the first time I've ever heard that question. So I gotta let it register for a second here, because it's my understanding that whatever happens is what is supposed to happen. So hypothetically, it would have progressed longer. Successful, yes.
Agreed. So one of the things that when I do this presentation is there were other Black communities that were out there during this particular time, and that the question that I raise to people is, do you feel that if those people would have been working together instead of Black Wall Street working with, if those communities would have been able to have the same success that
Success is relative to the administrator.
Because
Of course, yeah. That synergy allows the learning processes. Can you hear me? Am I good? Testing.
You still with me?
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay. Yeah, so synergy causes learning progress at an exponential rate. So if they were learning from each other, the different communities were linked together like the capabilities we have today, then yes, definitely been more successful as a unit.
Agreed. That we are actually, the concept of BBOC is to not only unite our people, all of the communities, and have us functioning, operating as one, and leaning upon each other in order for us to grow into the nation that we've been to literally become. Vinegar Hill. Everyone is familiar with but it was one of the first renewal there. There was the community sat in between various as well. And what ended up happening was that the people within that town was like, look, we don't want this community here. So, and basically passed laws within the community, damn this one community and out of that community. You had over 800 families that were displaced. And times have changed between now and then to where you just can't, well, they can still displace you, but they have to be able to provide housing for you. But this is one of the things that we're looking at, trying to be able to eliminate as well. Okay, so that I want everyone to start thinking about is with the situation that we have, and I'm not talking about as a people, I'm talking about individually, right? On the individual, remove our bills, right? Talking about all your utilities, child care, things of this particular nature. You was able to get rid of those particular items. You know, these are those recurring bills that on a monthly basis. Those bills right there. What would you actually be able to do with? Okay, I want you to hold it into you, and we're gonna come back to it a little later on. Okay.
Go.
BBOC is self-sufficient and self-sustaining communities for all African and Latinos that are here in the continent. Synopsis is used in the concept and the vehicle of BBOC to the economic and social ills that have plagued African Americans and Latinos since we have been living here in America. The goal is to set up new communities within 48 continental states of America and utilize this function so that we can eventually we can go back and bring this concept to the other brothers and sisters that we have that are worldwide, so that they can use the process to build their communities and eventually get to the point where we become an international community. Okay? This is to be about. You have community building, economic growth, internal trading, interstate trading, international community building, and international trading, international. We're gonna go through each and every last one of them through this particular presentation, but I'm gonna give you a quick overview of 7 of them. About let's look at the communities that we actually have right now. Okay, a good portion of the communities that we have receive some form of government. Anyone out there actually this bid assist?
200 billion, I meant to say.
You have about 700 and well, it averages out to be about 700, I believe, billion a year. And African Americans and Latinos, we encompass about 20. So in 2016, just in rental subsidies for low, spent about 30 billion and 6 billion on public housing. So about 36 billion of maintain about 27% of that, 29% in Section 8, 41% public housing, and actual vouchers. So we're looking at being able to save about almost 10 billion just with this particular. 1 out of 3 food stamps are of African American or Latino race, and we're talking about approximately 9 million individuals. This piece of it will save the government about $10 billion annually altogether. So just those two pieces alone, $1 billion on an annual basis. Now, altogether, when we look at the entire scope of it, literally will save them $1 billion or 200 billion on an annual basis through the concept and the process of BBOC. So important. Why am I talking about saving the overall government?
To the process.
That is correct. Correct. It's really nothing more to say about it out of my mouth. We're gonna move on to the next side. Community building. We basically want to construct autonomous communities with 48 states of America to replace the current communities that we live in. We will provide the basic necessities. We're talking about your food, your shelter, healthcare, etc. Only thing that we won't be providing is program, which we'll get into later. We will address the post-traumatic slave TSS and the economic struggles that have plagued our community. Not for sure if everyone is familiar with Dr. Joy is the author of the slave syndrome. She has a lot of YouTube videos to some clearly some of the things that we feel like hinder us as people, but literally you can see through the way that we operate and how our communities are right now, and that we are through that process. So this is one of the things that BBOC would be looking to be able to cure each and every last. The goal is to provide an environment and that will put us in a position to where we can heal level as a family, as a community, and hopefully nation. So through our economic struggle, community businesses and network businesses, we will bridge the gap and ultimately eliminate the current social classes that we have today. We will target the judicial legislative systems to invoke changes in law that will benefit the economic growth of the communities of BBOC as a whole. And we will strive to become an international commodity to invoke international protection from the injustices that we currently encounter from the current system. And so entire aim is to bring down the system of racism, right? When you understand what racism is, a system, not solely about the people that benefit from the system, but the only way for us to level the playing field of that system altogether. And it has to be done with a lot of diversion. Because if they understand exactly what it is that we're trying to do, then it's just simply not going to happen. We're talking about becoming an international commodity. Why do you think this would be something that's important for commodity?
Investment purposes and trading purposes. Yes.
Agreed. What about when was the last time that y'all seen that any of us have seen another nationality outside of ours that was killed via social media or national TV with no justice behind it.
That will be never. Well, okay. Let's let me be
transparent.
Yeah, let me try to be a little more fair and say that it may happen 1% compared to our 99%.
Agreed. And that in itself is an issue. Is an issue. Then why we talk about another reason why we talk about being an international, because this is part of the reason why you only see that 1% versus the 99%. Because these the other nationalities are part of that 1%. And there is some type of their commodity on the international scale. So they can't just sit back and have injustices done towards these people without there being any repercussions. We're not saying that, hey, it'd be all out war. No, that's not what we're saying. But what we are saying is that their ability to be able to do commerce in these particular countries would be severely hindered. Things was to take place. So the goal is international commodities so that we can do business on an international scale, as well as and that protection that it brings as well. So internal trading. We want to look at reestablishing the barter system and the trade system amongst our communities to basically ensure that basic needs that we have to survive are there. We'll also ensure that the communal welfare will be maximized within the communities through our internal trading. And this is one of the things that we'll ensure will correlate with the national trading system, which is the next slide, interstate trading, which will be the national trading system that we will use to ensure that every community within the United States will basically be taken care of. And it's not just those providing those our basic needs, but also building wealth as well. So when we talk about wealth building, right? I believe I just did a video on this the other day. One of the first things that most people talk about is in reference to making sure that we buy black, which is in essence one of the first steps to it. But that is more so maintaining wealth than it is building wealth. Wealth building is not just maintaining the wealth within our communities, but having the ability to draw income or wealth from other nationalities and being able to maintain that wealth within our communities. Think about it this way, right? So in my home, you in the average home, I'm not gonna say my home, in the average home, you might have the husband that is working, you might have the wife that is working, right? When they're talking about building wealth, if they were to just keep the money that they themselves within themselves, how would they actually be able to build outside of what it is that they bring through whatever job, right? But when they talk about multiple streams and that those multiple streams being targeted at with people outside of their home, then they will be efficient at generating being able to generate wealth. Okay, so even when it comes down to our buying power, right now our buying power is at what? It was like 1.3 trillion, I believe, 1.3 trillion dollars of buying power, and that's just African Americans. That's not even including Latinos. Right? how much of that do we actually hold on to? Our mortgage payment or rental payment goes where? Someone outside of us, right? That's
Africans and Indians and who own the properties and Jewishers.
That's correct. Someone with outside, right? When you look at our utilities, now I'm talking about your light bill, your water bill, sewage bill, trash, and stuff of this particular nature. Where does that go? Community, right?
Kind of.
When you talk about having to pay for health care, someone outside of our community. Even when you look at our taxes, that goes somewhere outside of our overall community. So when we talk about buying power, right? A good portion of it, but I say about at least 60% of the aiming in is already going out already. And these are one of the things can literally be true wealth within our community. Well, I'm gonna say generate community, but get to the place where we'll be able to truly maintain our wealth within our community.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like being better competitors in markets, the world markets.
Agreed. Agreed. That's a portion of it,
to an extent.
But we want to be able to get to that 60% that I was talking about, where our mortgage payment is going someplace outside of our community, our utilities is going somewhere outside of our community, healthcare, childcare, all the expenses and stuff that we have outside of our community. Talk about childcare and stuff of that nature, depending on who stay within our community. But we want to get to a place even these aspects of our life stays within our community, which is the reason why BBOC is going to provide your housing, your food, as well as your healthcare, childcare, things of this particular nature, so we can eliminate those forms of bills that are basically going outside of our community. International community. Once we establish BBOC right on a national scale, and this, and I'm not saying that we're going to wait until that time. No, I literally have people that are working on this right now. One of my team members just went to a meeting at the for the UN. What was that? I think it was about a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. I think so. Later on this evening, we actually have people right now as we once really established on a national platform, right? And this is when we're going to start showing us on an international scale, right? And so that we can set the stage for us to be able to become a commodity on an international scale, and to spark the relationships that's needed so that we can start trading and enter into commerce on an international scale. Okay. So international trading, this is when we actually start doing commerce and trading on an international scale. By this point, we'll have to ensure that the entire process of BBOC is functioning and operating as it should be. The monetary system, which we will go into a little bit later on, we have to make sure that is solidified and is recognized on an international scale. There's a lot of working pieces and moving pieces process, but again, this is something that we'll discuss a little bit later on in the presentation. Then the final piece is socialization, which is the final loop to it. Once we have established ourselves international scale, we're doing commerce on an international scale. The funds that are generated will basically be used to help our brothers and sisters that are out there in other countries to be connect their communities with ours, allow them to grow so that we can function and operate on an international scale with us. So basically what it is, we're gonna lay all the groundwork, right? We're gonna lay all the groundwork. We're gonna the relationships that's needed once established. We will bring our brothers and sisters that's countries. We will help communities, and we will have those people that we built those relationships with to basically go through the communities that we have set up there in order to continue to have the services that we were providing to them previously. All right. So at this point, right, everybody.
No questions.
On the line, I see we have more individuals that join and look. No questions. So we're gonna keep it moving. All right. So this is normally where I would take about a 10-minute break. It's up to y'all whether y'all need a break or not. I'm good. We can keep pressing forward if y'all like, but if you need to stop and drink, real quick for you to grab that.
Yeah, let me right quick.
All right. Alrighty, so if everybody is here, we pressing forward real quick just to explain this particular slide right here. I don't know if everyone is familiar with Jim Jones. He basically is that individual that basically gathered a bunch of people together, had them leave and based for themselves for no particular career or not based off of what it was that they believe. This is not that. The concept of BBOC is definitely not this whatsoever. We're looking at unity, the picture on the left, us coming together and unifying as a people, so that we can grow into that nation that we are destined to become. Not for sure if Ark is back, made it back yet. If you there, let me.
I'm here.
Alrighty, so everything it is that we talked about thus far, a quick overview. How are we going to accomplish this? All right, we're going to break down as we go into full detail of these phases of BBOC. It's community building. So first thing we have to look at is the population. All right. And that's the first way. It's more than that. So around 3,000. How the communities will be set up, 20 to 25,000 people per community. And so if we take Colorado, for example, just asking at about 250 here in Colorado. So at the max, we'll have literally 10 communities here. Makes sense? And
Sure.
the next is location. You gotta identify location for the potential. It's best practice that it would be by water source, but it's not necessary. I talk about necessary a little bit later on in the presentation, but you want to ensure that it's outside of the city limits, but close enough to be able to draw income from outside communities. You want to have a minimum of 150 to 250 consecutive acres. When I say consecutive acres, I'm not talking about 50 acres on one side of town, on another side of town. I'm 150 at most 300 consecutive acres, and also having a potential way of escape route. I'll talk about the potential way of escape route a little bit later. So looking at the numbers that I already gave with the close to 3, we're looking at about 738,000, almost 739,000 acres of the United States that we would need to secure. So startup costs. Build one community in all 48 states. When I say startup, I'm talking about the initial cost of land, temporary housing, the vegetation piece, which we will go into a little bit later, right? We're looking at 165, almost 166 for the community, and 166 million for each community. The initial startup in one community in all 48 states. The cost to build to all the communities would literally be 654, almost 655 million. That's, like I said, just the initial cost. We're talking about the land purchase, the purchase of the land, the startup of the vegetation, and it'd be way more. We talk about building all the homes and all that other stuff for the. So the layout. Community to 3 different areas, right? You have your industrial area, you have your agriculture, residential area. The industrial area is the area in the area should surround the entire community, as well as the agriculture area. And then in the center and the largest piece is the so the industrial area. Like I said, it resides on the outer limits of the community. This is where all of the businesses will actually be. Now, in every last business for that community, but your initials, and this should be around in the industrial area. I said it should surround the entire community from the agriculture area as well as the core community should be surrounded by the industrial area. Specifics as to this way, you know, one of the first things is because of security, right? We want to be able to see everything that's going on outside of our community, know who's coming in, as well as who's protecting everyone within the community. I know one of my couple of weeks ago in reference to this, and he wanted to know why would be outside of the community versus inside of the community. And the negation was because the people within the community are more important to build the businesses, if anything, to those but we can't bring back the life that will be taken of anyone that's
The emissions from the industrial have to are gonna have to float away from the we can't control the wind, so we have to kind of like uh, strategically place them to account for wind.
agreed, agreed. The, that's the justification I gave that I gave to him, and that is something that we're gonna have to look at when, as far as the wind, adjusting for the wind, when we look at the location for the communities and ensure that we grab a location that can help with that process. Then you have your agriculture area. It's just behind the industrial area, um, where all of your vegetation and clean animals will be grazed to start out with. The reason why I say to start out with is we're talking about grazing animals. You're gonna need way more land. Uh, um, could be literally it's going to be bigger than the community. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. The economic piece of it. The community, like I said, it should be the largest area uh, with within the 300, 150 to three, basically all of your hospitals, your schools, your daycares, recreation, normal community will literally be inside the community as well as where we will actually reside and live also. So the next piece is the governing structure. Okay. The four councils to start out with. You have national council, the regional council, and the community council. Once we establish ourselves on an international scale, there will be an international council as well, but the international council will also report to the okay. So we're gonna go into this in a little bit more detail. National councils. It's comprised of, it says four individuals, but literally it would be five individuals total. Each national council member will oversee one of the four regions, East, Central, Mountain, as well as West or Pacific. Individuals will be responsible for the advancement of growth for their region and preparations for international socialization. And that is their primary job to make sure that their region is growing, everything is functioning the way that it should within their prep their region for international socialization. And this is how the regions will actually be broken down. There are 12 states per region.
And you can look at your East region being in the brown, and your Central region being in the orange, Mountain region being in the gold, and your Pacific region being in the green. Like I said, there's 12 states per region. We want to make sure that we account for each and every last one. Now, one out is that within these councils, each individual that is on each, what I mean by that is if you're on the community council, you can't be on the state, regional, or national council. If you're on the national council, you can't be on the regional, state, or community council, or international council. So you can only hold and maintain one position within the governance structure. As far as length of time that individuals will be in these particular positions, there are only methods to be removed from these particular positions, and that is death, imprisonment, and treason. Those are the only three methods in order for a person to be removed from any of these positions: death, imprisonment, or treason. The reason being is because they will house a lot of pertinent information as to the inner workings of how everything will actually function and operate, as well as the way of escape plan. So this is not a position to be held at all. The regional council would basically be a non-national state or council member to represent each community as a regional council member for regional meetings. The representative will attend all regional meetings and provide feedback to the state council on updates, and all state issues or concerns will be presented to the regional council. Qualifications of the council members, the regional council members will be established by the national council. Your state council, like I said, you're part of the state council, you can't be a part of the national, regional, or the community council. But each state will have at the very least one member to represent that particular state. At all representatives will attend all state meetings and provide feedback to the community council on all updates. All community members will be presented to the state council, and qualifications for these state council members will be set by the regional council. Now your community council, which is the lowest level, right, and the most, for me, one of the most important levels, because they interact with the community on a regular basis. But each community will have at least 6 council members, not to exceed 12, and there must be at least one woman in the council to represent the women as well as the widows within the community, not to exceed 6. The reason why it's not to exceed 6 is because we want to make sure that we maintain the original structure, and we want to ensure that our men are taking their place as leaders within the community. The council members will function as judges and overseers of the community. Qualifications of the council members will be established by the state council. Right? One thing that is not in this presentation that I want to make sure that I talk about is that for each council, there will be a financial council as well. These financial councils will be responsible for the funds within the overall within the community, right? The community council. So how it be set up? You have a community financial council, you have a state financial council, you have a regional financial council, and then you have a national financial council. The financial council, as well as the council members, must basically agree on how finances are basically spent within each sector. financial counsel is to provide advisement to other council that they're actually connected to. So the community council will have the community financial council. The community financial council will give advisement to the community council on which direction that they should go for as far as advancement and growth of that particular community from a financial standpoint. How the hierarchy actually works, right? So let's say that there is an issue within a particular community, right? And, but they cannot resolve that issue within that particular council. So that issue would then go to the state council for it to be resolved. If by chance this is an issue that is common within multiple states, well not states, but I say communities within that state, and that issue will automatically go to the state council to be resolved. If it is common throughout states within that particular region, then it will go up to the regional council to be resolved. If it is common on a national, be pushed to the national council to be resolved. We're not just talking about issues within the communities, but we're talking about changes as well, as far as how community operate. Also, the community council is set there to community and the direction that the community needs to go, and ensure that the concept of BBOC, as well as I want to say the practices of BBOC, but is pushed and realized within that particular community.
Okay. Quick question.
All right.
So the operation, right, of the standard of the Constitution of the Bible. Okay. How do we make it? How do we clarify it for the operation of the people? You know, as they're functioning. You know what I mean? How do we clarify it to where it is simply be understood as the law, as our laws of the community?
Actualization program. That is one of the first things that when you have to complete the social to get into the community, and there is a total of 32 classes altogether that will have to be taken, with one of the areas of understanding being Torah law, as well as state and federal law. So all of this stuff will be discussed and taught in these particular classes, so that I don't want to say on an elementary level, but on a level that everyone will actually be able to understand. When we talk about the laws, right, you got over 613 laws, right? As far as the Torah is concerned, but all 613 laws don't necessarily apply to each and every individual. You have laws that are specific to men, laws that are specific to women. And so the way the classes and stuff will be set up will be so that they'll be able to get an understanding of these laws, not just for the overall community, but understanding of the laws on an individual level as well. We want to we'll make sure that it's simplified and the lowest common denominator for everyone across the board to be able to understand it and abide by it on a daily basis. Sense?
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm glad you asked the question, because it opens the door for the next thing that I'm actually about to talk about, which is community integration. And this talks about the socialization program of BBOC. So socialization program. First thing we have to do is identify participants that would be willing to enroll in the socialization program for integrating into the community. You have perceptive and you have your indifferent. Our perceptive are basically those that are awake to who we are. The indifferent are those that try to make it as simple as possible. So you're either awake or you're not. Within those classifications, they can be broken down into two categories as well. You have your assisted, you have your unassisted. Assisted is basically anyone that receives any form of government assistance, and unassisted is anyone that doesn't receive any form of government assistance. So, assisted participants will be provided with free housing for 1 calendar year. What do I mean by this, right? So, when I was talking about the initial product, right, the cost for it, one of the things that I mentioned was the temporary housing. So one of the first things that we will build within the community is temporary housing. Outside of the housing of the first individuals to move into it, it'll be temporary housing for these individuals right here that will be going through the socialization program, right? What happens is we'll provide housing. We'll provide housing to, hold on one second.
We're here with my man Yanaib Yasharala. He's got the BBOC socialization program.
My apologies. This housing, right? The assistant participants, right? They will, the temporary housing will be set for them. They have 1 year of basically living in this temporary housing. 2 different reasons, right? First is so that they get accustomed to the type of housing that we'll actually be living in. A lot of people that we'll be bringing in will not be accustomed to that form of housing, even though the housing that we want to provide will be similar or as similar as possible to the housing that we are accustomed to living in. But when we talk about autonomous housing, most of us are not accustomed to living in an autonomous house, right? So this will be their first introduction to an autonomous house, as well as getting an idea of how the community actually functions and operates. So once they move into the temporary housing, and they will have full access into everything within the community. But once that first year is done, all right, so that we can keep the process going of filtering people into the program, they will be moved over into another set of temporary housing outside of the actual community. This temporary housing will be income generating housing for the community. What do I mean by income generating housing? What I mean is that this will be housing that will basically be renting out to individuals outside of our actual community to help bring in income into the community for the sake of taking care of everyone within the community. And so it'll be income generating properties that will be bringing in money to basically help sustain that particular community. And so as far as how long they will actually be living within that temporary housing will depend on where we're at in the process of building community houses, right? And so it could be a day, it could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, it could be a year. It just depends on where we're at in the actual process. The assistant participants, they have 4 hours of class time daily, 4 hours of daily work time, i.e. they'll be working in a community business, right? And they will be compensated for the work that they do. They will be not for 4 hours of the daily work, but they'll be compensated for 8 hours. They'll be compensated for their time that they spend in class, as well as the time that they'll actually be working within one of the community stores. Unassisted, they will have 4 hours of class time daily, but their class time will be based off of their work schedule, and hopefully to start out with, will actually have classes that can be taken online, but it would not affect their ability to maintain their day-to-day life until they're moved into the community. Assisted participants will be housed according to their family size. So a single to 5-person family will be housed in apartment homes. 6-person family or more will be housed. And these are temporary housing, and this will be temporary housing. Okay. The unassisted be housed will have the same benefits to the community will have. So they will have access to all the daycares. They will be able to go into the stores and get things at a discounted rate, things of this particular nature. They have all of that access as well. So like I was talking about earlier in reference to the socialization program, you have 4 major focuses, right? First focus is financial. And so when we talk about financial, we're talking about becoming debt-free, remaining debt-free, and proper management of household income. One of the things that I didn't talk about previously, let's say for instance, you have an unassisted person that might not have a house or something of this particular nature. They can move into the temporary housing as well, and receive the same benefits that the assisted would actually have. But just to get back to actually what I was discussing in reference to the financial piece. Like I said, the focuses are becoming debt-free, remaining debt-free, and proper management of household income. And so one of the things that I just talked about was that the assisted participants, right, they will be compensated for the work that they're doing. And so within the financial courses, the debt, not that the assisted have, but the assisted as well as the unassisted, we will look at the debt that they actually have and help them formulate a plan in order to eliminate the debt that they have, as well as being able to get to a point where they stay away from entering into any debt, into any debt, as well as being able to manage their household income properly, so that they won't have to worry about accumulating any more debt. The next piece is business management, becoming a business owner / partner. It's one of the pieces. Building a business plan and executing and maintaining that business plan. You want to basically take one thing that you love to do, right? Whatever it is that you love to do, that you literally would do for free. And we're going to help you formulate that into a business plan, teach you how to execute it and how to maintain it as well. And we'll talk about some of the benefits of that as well. Now, this is the piece that we was talking about earlier, which is the focus, which is Torah law / Torah / law. So you have the Torah laws that each community will adhere to, understanding the rights within state law, and understanding the rights within federal law. I said this is important because people are going to have to understand the laws and that will govern basically each and every last community that we live in. That will be discussed within that is also the consequences of breaking these particular laws. To something that would be standard across the board for each and every last community, and it is something that the community council, the regional council, the state council, as well as the national council will all agree upon across the board. Okay. You sound like you had a question. What's up?
Yeah, a question that came up in one of my bills was, will the governments that exist have jurisdiction over us? So if you could flush out that dynamic.
Okay. So to start out with, when you say the government
You're talking about the United States government that we all adhere to right now, right?
Right, the United States and the varying states, they they are separate governments and they're unified in you know their suppression, oppression, and everything like that. But of course, we're working to make sure that they're amicable to our needs and stuff like that. And we're going to have our own law. But are we subject to their law? Do their law supersede ours? Is the question that they posed, and I didn't know how to answer it fully.
Okay, so to start out with, it would. And I say to start out with. The reason that I talked about the international piece and us going to the United Nations and stuff of that nature, there are several different ways to be able to establish sovereignty on an individual level, right? But we're not looking at doing it on an individual level. We're looking at being able to do it on a bigger scale. Not the last one of us being able to attain not just sovereign rights, but our rights to be looked at as a nation as a whole. Okay? So to start out with, the government that we have to adhere to right now, yes, their laws will actually supersede our laws outside of our community, right? Which is the reason why this portion of the socialization program it speaks to the state law as well as the federal law, so that people will have a true understanding of the rights that we have within those laws once we leave out of the community. But once we establish ourselves, one of the first pieces that we have to do in order to gain our sovereignty on a national scale. When I say national scale, I'm talking about a lot like everybody. I'm just talking about the people that are aware and that can do it on gain their sovereignty on an individual status, but we're talking about gaining our sovereignty as a nation as a whole. One of the first things that we have to do is to be able to prove that we can function and operate outside of the government that we reside in now. So, and that is the whole, at the whole, but that is one of the major pieces of BBOC is to be able to disconnect ourselves from this government, right? And their ability, their need to have to take care of us and stuff of this nature, improve not just to them but to the other nations out here that hey, we can do this on our own, so that we can start the process of being able to claim ourselves as being a nation outside of the nation that we actually live in right now. But we're not just talking about everyone is here. We're talking about on an international scale as well. This is the reason why I talked about the communities that our brothers and sisters reside in now. And so it's a little bit more intricate than just claiming sovereignty for each individual, ourselves on an individual level, or claiming sovereignty for us, for everyone that's here within the United States. It's not something that's going to come tomorrow, but it definitely will come. It's just a matter of maintaining our peace until we get to that point.
Agreed. Now, I heard in your explanation that we're subject to their laws outside of the community. So, can you flush that out a little more? Inside of the community, is there a different dynamic?
There are already laws that are set in place within the Constitution to where we'll be able to govern ourselves within each community without having any side influence. So those are the things that we're going to look at. And I'm not just talking about state laws; I'm talking about federal laws as well. That's definitely something. If need be, I can send out an email in reference to those particular processes and how it will be done. Matter of fact, there's a whole nother piece to be about that's not discussed, but it's not even a portion that I run. Actually, it's the municipal piece of this or whatnot. It's not a part of BBOC, but it's a part of BBOC if it makes sense. And their job is pretty much to provide protection that we would need from
from this government and from outside influences and outside state and government, state and federal influences for our community. So we have a whole nother entity that is working that piece for us. It's just we have to establish the BBOC portion of it. So we have eyes and ears. Another completely different program that are setting up to leaders within local government, not federal, but local government, to ensure that we can function and operate without any outside influence, which is the reason why I talked about outside of our community. We just have to make sure that we maintain ourselves outside of the community.
Okay.
All right, so the last piece is enrichment. To me, outside of the Torah piece, this is one of the most important pieces. It focuses on identifying the social ills, the PTSS, post-traumatic slave syndrome, providing solutions to the PTSS, as well as the reestablishing the importance of family and community. All right, so we want to re-educate people as they come through the process of, hey, look, this is what's been going on. This is what's been happening. This is the reason why our neighborhoods look like this, and the third. This is what it is that we need to do to ensure that what we're building over here does not duplicate what you're coming from over there. And then, like I said, reestablishing the importance of community/family, setting the tone for, okay, in order for this to work, we all have to set our differences aside, and we have to work together, for the benefit of not us on an individual basis, but for the benefit of everyone within the community, right? And it's literally everyone within the community. I don't care how or what it is that you're doing, or how slight you might think it is, or how great you might think it is. It's all working for the benefit of each and every last person. Great, small, young, old. All working together for the benefit of everyone within the community. And this is what these enrichment classes are to start you on the path of the healing that we're going to need from the PTSS, as well as the restructuring and the resetting of our mind of we was before. We don't have to be that way anymore. Okay. And so they're complete. The 2 years of this, like I said, is 4 classes daily from Sunday through Friday. 32 classes total, 13 week classes. It's a 2-year completion standard. We will have online classes for unnecessary participants that will be designed to work around their work schedule. We also discussed having night classes as well for individuals that might not want to do it online, that they want to have that classroom feel, for them to be able to come to those as well. And we will have a graduation ceremony once the socialization program is completed. We're going to have a graduation for each and every last individual successfully makes it through the courses. We want to be able to celebrate these people and give them a sense of this is basically the first real experience that they will have with the individuals that are already living in the community, right? So we want to make sure that we welcome them in a high fashion. I'm not talking about a graduation like the ones for high school and stuff of that nature, but we just want to make sure that we have a ceremony to celebrate each and every last individual that's able to complete program in itself.
That's beautiful. That reminds me of being greeted into the Hawaii airport. And so,
Yes.
check this out. That's a unique experience if in the Israelite community where you are allowed to graduate from lessons and schooling. Uh-huh.
Definitely. That's the feel that we want to have, and that's just one piece of it. But now we talked about several other things that we want to make sure that we institute within the communities. Even something as small as for our kids as well. You know what I'm saying? Welcome them welcoming them into womanhood and manhood, things of this particular nature. We want to make sure that we get back to some of the original roots that we actually have, and reestablish that love, that sentiment of love. We want everyone that comes into the community, everyone that lives in the community, to feel that love, not just from the individuals within their home, but within everyone within the community. You know, and it's possible. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I see it. I definitely see it. One of the pieces of the socialization program is the business plan review. So what happened is everyone that is a part of, that goes through the socialization program will, I talked about helping them take their idea or the one thing that they love and turning it into a business. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to allow them to submit those business plans to the community council and to the community financial council for potential startup. One thing that happened is that similar plans will be merged into a partnership. It's important because the competition sales is with the other nationalities out here, that are similar or they're exactly the same, that's competing with each other for business. We want to be able to merge those things into partnerships so that they can bring those ideas basically collectively together and come up with one major business that will rival all of them that's out there. When I talk about the businesses and stuff that we'll start within the BBOC program, we're looking at starting things that's going to rival just about everything that is out there. You know, I don't care how small to how great it is. When we're talking about that mom and pop store that's right down the street, that's owned by the Arab, owned up to the Walmarts, Targets, places of that particular nature. You know, I was walking through Walmart the other day, and I was talking with my wife about it. And this is another thing when we talk about buying, keeping within our community. You know, when we look at the things that are within the stores that we actually have out here now, you know, how many things within that store is actually owned by the actual owner. What do I mean by that? Okay, let's say, for instance, you have a clothing line, right? So that clothing line, in order to produce the clothes that that you are actually selling, who is the manufacturer? 9 times out of 10 is someone outside of our community. You know, so when we talk about being able to rival just about every business that's out there, we're talking about on every aspect of it. So we're going to have a clothing line or a clothing store of anything of that particular nature that's going to produce our garbs and that we actually wear. Then we're going to have to make sure that from the animals that or the plants that we are using to produce the fabric, we have to own that piece. We have to ensure that the industrial plant, you know, or the manufacturing plant that is putting these pieces together, we have to ensure that we own that piece, right? And so we want to make sure that every aspect of it, you know, we are covering as an overall people, which is an important reason why the business plans are important, because a lot of us have a lot of ideas out there, a lot of things that we just simply love to do that will be important to our community. We just don't have the funding and to be able to start it. So this is one of the ways that BBOC will be helping business owners to people to become business owners is through the socialization program and the business plan review. All business plans accepted will be located in the surrounding cities outside of the community. And so they wouldn't actually be in the industrial area of the community. They will set somewhere within the other within the other communities outside of our community to help draw in income from the other nationalities. The community pot, community account will fund all accepted business startups, and all businesses accepted will provide 1 to 3% of their monthly gross back to the community pot. And now we'll talk about that 1 to 3% a little bit later. And all business plans not accepted will be allowed to resubmit after a breakdown of how their plan can be enhanced. So basically, once you submit it to the Community Financial Council, if it's not accepted, they're not just going to hand it back to you and say, "Nah, this not good enough." You know, they're going to do a detailed deep dive into the business plan that you actually presented, right? And give you basically either a one-on-one on how you can enhance your business plan, or they'll do a write-up on how you can advance your business plan, enhance your business plan, and you will be able to resubmit it.
Okay.
If it is something that well, I'll talk about that a little bit later, but there are other methods and ways to be able to start your business outside of this particular piece as well. Okay.
Okay, I gotta commend you on. Can you go back to that slide? Because I gotta commend you on the wisdom of this nuance. As far as you say, similar plans will be merged into a partnership. So the whole plan that you have here is powerful, but this particular nuance is dear to me because I talk about that all the time. So instead of having 2,000 clothing designers with 2,000 sole proprietorships that must compete with each other, those 2,000 creative minds can come together and be under one umbrella, which is in turn more attractive to investors.
Yep. 100% agree.
And their creative minds will make their business much more competitive in those markets against the other companies that are out there.
Agreed. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing, man. When I thank the Most High, I really do, because, like I said, when I say I see it, I mean I see it. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen, and just the potential of it is a beautiful thing. You know, but able to come together and merge business plans, turn them into partnerships, whereas even across the board. But I'm going to jump into the next piece, which is polygyny, right? So polygyny will be allowed within every community. It's not something that would be promoted. It's highly suggested that if you practice polygyny within the community, that the household live as one, i.e. the entire family all live in one home. The reason for this is to preserve space within the overall community. Considering the fact that we'll actually be providing you with housing. Like I said, although polygyny is not something that will be promoted, it's recommended that we have a willingness to accept it because it is something that is deeply ingrained within our culture, something that is being practiced even up until this particular day. I will say that I am an advocate for it. I don't currently practice it, but I am an advocate for it. But this is one of those gray areas when it comes to us as a people. The majority of us are familiar and accustomed to monogamy, and it is a choice of the individual. But the one thing that I do want to point out is that we do have individuals within our culture that practice it. And we want them to be able to live within the community with the same comfort that everyone else does. And so, like I said, it's not something that will be promoted, but it is something that we are stressing that everyone have a willingness to have acceptance of, not solely because of space within the community and their ability to be able to live in the same comfort that everyone else will actually be living under.
Pretty sure somebody gonna have a question. So
yeah, I think it's only a problem because there and the Bible makes it clear that different offices, uh, uh, some of them must have one wife. So whenever they see that and they hear Hamashiach say that it wasn't like this in the beginning where we had multiple wives, then they run with that. But then there are different offices that are permitted to have multiple wives. So I think as long as we clarify that, and we leave it up to the individual choice of the citizens.
We got the laws.
Say again.
Class, right?
You breaking up on me, Ak. I can't hear you.
No. Okay. But that where them sitting in the classes, right?
Your mic is messed up.
Yeah, I can't hear anything. There should be an area where you can type your question into it, into the chat. So if you can type it into the chat, I'll definitely be able to see it. I'm gonna write into it real quick. That way, I should be able to see. If you can type your question into it. I know in reference to polygyny, one of the let me rephrase it. Talk about polygyny, I mean righteous polygyny. I keep saying that I need to change these slides to it because biblical polygyny versus what is actually being practiced nowadays is two completely different things. And one of the issues that we have in reference to this is that it's not being governed. Okay, so let me break from that. I finally got the question. It says that will be broken down in the class. What claims that is something that will be broken down within the classes. As far as the Torah and the law piece, the polygyny piece definitely will be something that is broken down in full detail. Because when you look at laws in reference to polygyny within scripture, there are not a lot of them. But brings me into what I was about to say about polygyny, period, is that it's not being governed in the manner in which that it actually should be. So we want to reestablish that ability to govern these types of relationships to ensure that the man as well as the woman have their rights. And on the polygyny side of the house, the communities that I have, I'm actually connected with, a lot of the issues and concerns have to do with basically how things are today. Here living in the U.S., you have multiple wives.
It's like the way a real leader is going to find a way to get to the promised land. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the whole goal. Like get to the promised land. Like you get to the other end. You don't just say you're a leader, but you never win any. Let me help y'all. What you got to do is take it back to the moments in the story where these things identified, I believe, and that's when children like, I'm the king now. You're not the king. You're just a soldier that defeated the king. And T'Challa is moving towards being the king and finding a way to do things and even trying to help his fellow man. And because he killed one. Right?
Okay, I hear a lot of talk about not sure what's the question.
He's the true king. And he's not just a soldier that
Not sure what happened there, but like I was saying, one of the biggest concerns, one of the biggest issues is that here where we live at right now, when it comes down to marriage, you can only have one wife. So if you're practicing polygyny within this particular nation, the other wives don't have the same what's the word for security or assurance that that the original wife will have. That's one of the things that we want to ensure that we govern. We want to make sure that piece of it is governed, and everyone have rights within this particular realm. There's only 2 slides as it pertains to this. Like I said, it would definitely be talked about within the actual socialization program. The laws in reference to it would definitely be out in the open for people to be able to view and see. But like I said, it's not something that would be promoted within the community. It would be on an individual base. It would definitely be on an individual base. And I've heard a lot of it, a lot of I want to say complaints, but a lot of the concerns in reference to, okay, if you have people that are practicing polygyny within in the community, then you're going to have other people that are not aware of it or things of this particular nature that will want to be a part of it. Things of this particular nature, that is the reason that the council is there, to ensure that these matters are handled with wisdom. And so, yeah. Somebody else have another question? So, business startup, how are we going to get this thing off the ground, right? Several different ways that we were looking at for the funding of this piece of it. One of the ways that I'm actually going to go through over the next couple of slides is the pay it forward real estate concept, right? So the Colorado community, or the mountain region, the region where I actually reside, we're going to volunteer to assist in the financial burden of the community startup. So all the communities and stuff that are out there, the one that mountain region, the region that I actually live in right now, we are going to come to each and every last state and region and ensure that we help provide the startup for each community. Okay. So assist the community founders. We will assist the community founders in accumulating funds to purchase the land for the first communities, and we will assist the community founders in establishing the first businesses for the community as well. Right. So real estate investment will be the primary vehicle used to accumulate the funding needed through the purchase of land and needed for the purchase of land and the first businesses of the founding community. The mountain region will finance the original real estate investment to start the accumulation of income. Okay. Like I said, it's the pay it forward real estate concept. Once the first investment is complete, the community founder will take 20% of the investment to start a community account/pot. The remaining 80% will be divided in half. One going to the community founder and the other going to the mountain region. Community founder will take 25% of that for personal income, and 75% will go into another individual to repeat the process. The 40% that the mountain region actually took, they would take that 40% and go to the next state/region to assist with the next community startup. So how it actually look, when say Colorado, say we go out to Georgia, we do a deal and we walk away with 100,000, right? 20,000 is going to go into the community account/pot. 40,000 is going to go to Colorado. 40,000 is going to go to Georgia. Colorado is going to take their piece and go to the next location and redo the process all over again. And then the community founder in Georgia is basically going to go to and continue to duplicate the process. So just a quick rundown, breakdown, 100% profit baseline. We're talking about 20% going to the community account/pot, which is about 20,000, 40,000 to the mountain region, which is 40,000. Yeah, 40% going to the community founder, which is 40,000 as well. 75% going towards duplication, so they'll take 30,000 of that 40,000 to duplicate the process with another individual, and then 25% for personal income, so they'll walk away with 10,000. And there's no money that that the community founder is actually putting up. the people within my region will be responsible for putting up the money for the initial investments, and we'll make sure that we teach you, that we walk you through the entire process, teach you of the process, and how it actually work and benefit for you. So the duplication. So what happened is this community founder, they're gonna have tools, right? The payoff piece is that they have to go out and find someone else to redo the process with, right? So that's the pay it forward piece of it. They have to find another individual to go out there and redo the process with, and then they will continue to duplicate it down the line, right? But they have an option here once they finish their piece of duplication, and they can take the funds that they made from off of doing the pay it forward real estate plan and start their own business, or they can continue to duplicate the process until they have generated enough funds and to purchase the land and start the first businesses within the community. So they identify another brother or sister that is willing to embrace the BBOC concept and help further the cause. Identify that individual. The community founder will utilize the funds designated for duplication to finance a real estate investment with that individual, going through the same process, 20% going to the community pot, 80% being divided down to half, 40 and 40. The community founder, like I said, would take 40% for personal income. If they start up a business using the $50,000 that they actually made off of it, then that business will be a business, a BBOC work business, and they'll be responsible for putting 3% of that business into the community account. So that's fine. But my personal recommendation is that they hold off on that and that they continue to find new individuals because it's the quickest method. Then that new individual or investor will take 40% and duplicate the process all over. So how you have your community founder, and they're going to basically take that other individual, they're going to work a deal, the $100,000 off of it. They're going to take 20% or 20,000 of it, put it into the community pot. At this particular time, that community account / pot will have about 40,000 in there. The community founder will take 40,000 for personal income, right? So at this point, he'll have $50,000 to either start his own business, or he can take 20,000 and take the other 30,000 and duplicate the process all over again. And that new individual will make 40,000 off of it. They would take 30 of it, find another individual to duplicate the process, and then they'll have their 10,000 in personal income for themselves. Well, so like I said, quick the numbers and stuff are exact same. Profit baseline, 20% going to the community pot, which is about 20,000. 3,000 going to the community founder or for that particular region. 40% going to the new individual that they just brought on, and 30,000 and 10,000 going to duplication and personal income. So, like I said, the best method to doing this is continued duplication, right? Single duplication. Let's say that founder goes out there and he finds this one person and they process 12 times just on an individual basis. Then within the community pot, and there should be about 240,000 for those 12 investments. But if you do continued duplication where that community founder goes out there and finds another 12 individuals, and then those 12 individuals finds 12 individuals, 144 investments, in which you'll walk away with almost 3 million within the community account to start up, do the startup piece of it, which is actually the fastest approach. The fastest approach in order to be able to do it. This is, for me, the backup plan. Just in case the funding that I have lined up doesn't pan out. have a very, very, very important presentation to do next month that will potentially provide the initial startup for one or two things. The initial startup for one community within all 48 states, or the initial startup for all the communities that will actually be needed. So I'll make sure that I keep everyone posted. It's part of the reason why I'm telling people that want to donate into it, the hold their peace until after this presentation. That way I know which direction that I'm going to need to go with it. But this is the method that will be utilized just in case the funding that, like I said, that is set up. And I have other individuals that are willing to make significant investments into this process as well. So next month is a big month. I ask everybody to be in prayer. And now, before
and stop sinning before you pray. Make sure. I got a question from my audience over here. If we can entertain one right now.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the Truth Hurt podcast. He said, how will the council members be chosen, and are we going to allow open practices of different religions within this community? Also, he talked about the judicial system. If a crime is committed within the residents of this community, will they be tried by the council first? Judicial system of the United States of America. 3 questions.
Okay, so that was, I think, about 4 questions all in one.
Right. So the first question. Okay.
But how will the council members be chosen? As far as the national council is concerned, how I think I talked about this before too. How they're chosen to be a little bit different from the other council members. But the community council will pretty much be chosen by these. There will be specific qualifications that they will have to actually meet in order to be on that particular council. The regional council will actually choose the state council members, and they'll provide the qualifications for those particular members. And then the national council will actually choose the regional council members, will basically provide the qualifications for those particular, for that particular seat. The national council members, hopefully through guidance, the Most High and the Rawak, myself and other individuals will actually choose, will choose the actual national council members, but there are particular qualifications that each individual actually have to meet in order to be able to be on the council member, which is the reason why instead of it being 4 is actually 5, 5 members, because I will actually be on national council, but won't be responsible for overall region. We'll have 4 other individuals that will be responsible for that particular region. Said hopefully through Spirit of the Most High of Rawak, he will guide me into choosing those individuals correctly. But there are specific qualifications for each and every council. Once the national council is selected, then we'll go about with selecting the regional and the regional. Once it's selected, then we'll go ahead and select the actual state council. And as far as the community council, as communities are set up, the state council will choose those individuals based off of the criteria and the qualifications that are set forth. In reference to this, I'm glad they asked you that question. All right, so let's say
get the funding for the original, the first 48 communities, right? But what happened is, as we grow as a community, right, and the communities start to flourish and overflow, and we have to build a new community. What happened, because each community will have its own council, right? Well, what happened is the initial community, and I have this written down in the PDF that I'm supposed to send to you as well. But what happened is council that 12 council members, original community will be split in half, right? So if they have 12 individuals on that council, it'll be split in half completely. Hopefully, they will have more than one female on that council. If not, then another will be chosen. So what happened is, like I said, it'll be split in half. Half of the community council go to the new community, and we'll start the governing process for that particular community, and they would choose individuals within that particular community to be a part of that council, and that the new council will stay at 6 until the community starts to build up, and they will select council members up into 12 members up until they get to individuals on that particular council. Make sense? The next question was
yes, absolutely.
Are we allowed to allow open practices of different religions in this community? The answer is no. It's not to say that we will not have other. When we talk about Yasharala as a whole, right? Everyone within Yasharala, whether they realize it or not, don't have the same religious persuasion. You have individuals that are Christian, you have individuals that are of Islamic persuasion, you have individuals that committed Egyptology, all of it. None of that within the community. What you do outside the community is something completely different. But it will not be practiced within the actual community. I think the next question was.
Let me add a question to his question there. Right. So you got the rental units that are outside of the community. That is considered our community. Isn't that the people who come in that still have to go through the training process of the Torah and
some of it will.
Some of
it. These are, some of them will be. We'll have a certain amount of properties that will units within the properties that be set aside for those individuals. The vast majority of it will be come generating properties. So it'll be people living within those properties that we are using to generate funds and to bring funds into the community from people outside of our actual community.
Okay, so before they can even move into the proximity of any community, they would have to already accept a certain standard of religious practice.
I wouldn't say that. Yeah, it's not a matter of accepting it, and they will have to complete the socialization program. Only thing that they will actually have to accept is abiding by the actual laws of the community.
Okay, so they can come in as a Christian, go through the socialization program, and then live by that standard after the socialization program.
Yep, the only thing that we're saying is that whatever it is that you practice, like you're not going to come into the community and think that you're going to be able to post up a Christmas tree and put up
lights and stuff on the outside. No, that's not going to happen. If you're going to, whatever it is that you're going to practice is going to have to be done outside of the community.
Mm-hmm. Okay, appreciate it.
In essence, it'll go against the very laws that we're teaching you that's a part of the community that you're going to have to follow anyway. If it makes sense.
Right. So come as you are, go through the socialization program, and then weed yourself out if you're not with it.
Pretty much.
Okay.
If you can't make it through the socialization program, then you won't be allowed into the community. So the question was raised, right, before is whether you actually have to live in the community and to be a part of it. And the answer is no. The only thing is, if you live outside the community, some of the benefits of the community you won't have. You know, what do I mean by that? And what I mean by that is, okay, it's a lot easier to feed everyone that's actually living within the community and in that particular manner versus being able to feed people that actually live outside of the community. The way that the program is set up as far as eliminating healthcare and things of this particular nature, a lot easier to do if you're actually into the community. Now, what'll happen is you will have the ability to be able to go into the community to receive like discounted food, being able to go to the doctor and stuff for free. But it won't be one of those things where the doctor will be leaving from out of the community to come and see you. You actually have to come into the community to go to one of the hospitals to be seen. So can live outside of the community. It's just, it would be different living outside of it versus what it would be living in. Have way more benefits living in than you would living outside of it. The last question was if a crime is committed within the residents of the community, will they be tried by the council first or by the judicial system of the United States? That would depend on what type of crime it is. And on what type of crime it is. If we're talking about murder, something serious of this nature, then yes, they definitely will be tried by the U.S. government prior to. And that's, when I say prior to, I'm talking about prior to establish ourselves as an overall nation. Once we establish ourselves as a nation, then we won't have to deal with that anymore. So whatnot. But when we talk about things as serious as that, then yes, they will have to be tried by the United States government before they will actually see our council at all. That's if they even get to the point where they're able to stand before our council. But anything that's minor, they would definitely go to our council. And if it could be done, they wouldn't even see the U.S. piece of it. And I'll talk about that a little bit later once we talk about the community funded workers in reference to the lawyers and stuff that we'll actually have within the community for these particular. But this is plays a big role within the community, within the socialization program. Because people are going to have to understand coming in and that. Okay. I don't even want to say for the meantime, but we're gonna need you to be a law-abiding citizen, not just within the community, but outside of the community. And we understand that there are gonna be situations where you might not do anything at all or whatnot, but still get harassed. But we will have provisions for those particular situations. But if you leave from outside of our community and you commit a crime, when I say commit a crime, you go out here, you rob somebody or something of that particular nature, then you're going to have to face the consequences of your actual choice. Everything comes down to a choice. End of the day, when coming into the community, it's going to come. We can't force you to live within the community. You're going to have a choice of whether this is going to be something that you're going to want to do, whether it's going to be something that is You just don't see that you can do. So there'll be provisions that'll be made. Was there another question, Mark?
He's asking. This guy always asks excellent questions, so I'm just dealing with him on the thing. But if you want to address any of these and add your own information to it, then that's fine.
Definitely. I don't want to drag this presentation out too long. So what I do is, if it's something that I won't answer through the process or something that'll take me too long to answer, he can put his email information into. If you can put my email information into it and have him send the questions to my email if I don't answer it, and I'll email him directly.
Okay.
And I'll make sure that I CC you on it, that way you can
and it's the email is
that way you can see the responses to it as well.
The email is bbocforus@gmail.
Yep, that is it. BBOC, the number 4 us, gmail.com. All righty, so the pay it forward real estate process would definitely the model that would be used within all 48 states. Like I said, this is like worst case scenario. I don't foresee it being this way. Everyone that I've done this presentation for thus far, outside of minor things that they might not have particularly agreed, something that they want to do, and so presentation that I have coming up next month for the funding, I know I'm going to blow the people away, and we will have what it is that we need, and we can go ahead and get to work. But this is, like I said, worst case scenario as far as what we would do, and the funding is there for as being able to do this piece of it, the pay it forward real estate process. And regardless of whether we get the funding or not, we will still do it this way. I'll provide the funding for the initial startups of the communities, and I will make sure that I hold to my word in reference to starting up the first businesses, because like I said, the initial that is being requested is for the initial startup, the purchase of the land, the temporary housing, the startup of the vegetation, and some of the initial businesses to be started. One of those businesses I will talk about a little bit later, but I will make sure that myself and my team actually go out and start the pay it forward real estate process, so that in the midst of building, we can continue to grow. So I talked about the 1 to 3%, right? The first businesses, once they're functioning, each network business will provide 1 to 3% of their monthly gross into a separate pot for the community, basically into the community account and into the community pot. It's based off of your annual gross, right? Not annual net, but annual gross. So if you make $1 million or more, you put in 1% into the community account / pot. Averages out to be around about $10,000 on an annual basis. If you make less than $1 million, but a little bit more, 500, you make 100,000 less than $1 billion, and you put in 2%. Still averages out to be close to about 10,000 on an annual basis. If you make very least 50,000 or less than 500,000, then you'll put in 3%, which is at the very least 1,500 on an annual basis. All right. The reason why it is at 50,000 versus 0, right? We're talking about businesses. If your business is not generating at the very least 50,000, which is less than what the average household income actually makes, then I don't want to say we have to go back to the drawing board, but we needed to take a serious look at your business and help you enhance that particular business so that you can get to this particular point. There's a reason There's a reason for all of it. And I'll talk about the benefits of it a little bit later. Max out. When I'm talking about max out, once the industrial area is basically maximize its potential, you know what I'm saying? The entire outer area of the community has businesses done. That particular rules are utilizing the community part to help support the upkeep of the community as well as the advancement of the business. So before I talk about the advancement, how you can advance your business, I want to give a breakdown of what two types of businesses, right? So you have community businesses and you have network businesses. The community businesses are defined as a business that is self-sufficient, owned by the community or the community financial council. What do I mean by self-sufficient? I mean is that this business, right, everything that is gross in the business is utilized to take care of everything in the business. So the expense to paying the employees is basically utilized, basically covered via gross. Whatever is netted goes back to the community pot, you know, for the taking care of and the helping of the advancement of businesses, as well as sure that everyone within that particular community is taken care of. What do I mean by that? Say, for instance, we have a grocery store, a community grocery store. The money that is generated, that is gross at this store, will be utilized to ensure that the expenses is paid for, as well as the employees are paid for as well. So let's say 60% of they have a monthly expense of 60% of what's gross. 40% that is left go back to the community pot, and to ensure that everyone within the community is basically taken care of, and provides a method in order for us to be to advance and build additional businesses as well. We want to make sure that we have just as many community businesses as we have network businesses. When you look at the numbers, right, talking about potentially 40% of what's netted within a community business going back into the community pot, versus network business, which is a business that is owned by individual within the community, or that is connected to the community, or a business that was already established before the community started, basically is contracted into BBOC, providing only 1 to 3% of whatever it is that they actually gross going into the community pot. So you have 1 to 3% versus 40%. So the vast majority of the money that's going into the pot is going to come from community businesses. So we want to make sure that we have many community businesses as possible, all right, to ensure that the community pot is stable enough to be able to take care within the community. So each community should have, at the very minimum, 4 community businesses. When I'm talking about the 4, I'm talking about in the industrial area. They should have at least 4 community businesses in the industrial area, and they need to ensure that they have community businesses outside of the industrial area so that they can draw in income from other nationalities, and that just want to go directly into the community pot. The employees of the community businesses will be assistant participants. So those who are going into the socialization programs are going to be put into these community businesses to basically run them. Right. The management of the community businesses will be maintained by the Community Financial Council, and they will appoint a physical store manager. They appoint or really hire a physical store. And you have your network businesses. Network business is defined as a business outside relation of the community. These used to draw outside income from surrounding cities. Just said, you have several different types. You have the businesses.
Okay. Hold on a second. Something's going on. I don't know what's going on, but it's been going on for about 15 minutes where your volume is going up and down, in and out.
Up and down, in and out. All right, let me adjust real quick. I thought everything was good. I have a little volume going on here where it shows whether coming through or not. So, you hear me clearly now?
Yes.
All right. So I'll make sure that I monitor it to ensure that that you can hear me. If it continues to go in and out, let me know, and I will change. I'll change to the speaker form that I'm using now.
All right.
But your network businesses, right? Talked about the different forms of it. You have those that will be going through the socialization program that will be submitting their business plans. Those businesses that are chosen, they will be considered network businesses. Now, if there's someone that actually owns a business right now that wants to be a part of your BBOC program or whatnot, they will be considered to be network businesses. Basically, those are there's several different types of network businesses out there. Basically, if it's not a community business, it would be considered to be a network business. So network businesses will provide, like I said, 1 to 3% of their monthly income to be added to the community account / pot. The community pot can be utilized to advance thriving network businesses with additional locations. Business plans presented and accepted by participants, which I just talked about, of the socialization program will be considered network businesses. So, how can you advance your business within the overall BBOC process, right? So I talked about the community councils and the community financial councils, as well as the national, state, regional, and national community and financial councils as well. So let's say, for instance, your business is a part of the BBOC process, and you're contracted to BBOC. You're a network business. Your business is doing just great, right? You can take your business plan as well as your growth to the state financial council review. What happens is the state financial council, they will review your business plan as well as your growth. They'll check the trends, all this other good stuff in that particular state. And if everything looks well, they literally will finance your business to be started up within the other communities, side of the other communities within that state. So let's use Colorado, for instance. The example that I talked about earlier was that we just going off of African Americans, right? We will need 10 communities. So say, for instance, your business is here in Colorado. It's thriving, it's doing good. You took it to the state financial council. They said, hey, everything is good. What's going to happen is they're going to call the community financial council for each and every, the community financial council as well as financial council, each and every last community within this particular state. They're going to be like, hey, have this business plan that's thriving within this one community, which shows that it will thrive with our community as well. We need you to start this business, at least one outside of your community. So, not going to say overnight, but once it'll be mandated that that community will actually start that particular business because it's thriving. The number shows it, the research has showed it, and all the experts have looked at it, it's going to work. So you will go from having one business around that one community, right? Until in Colorado, we have 10 communities, so you'll go from having 1 to 10. Still only putting in your 1 to 3% into the community pot, right? But you just went from having one business to 10 in that particular state. Let's say the business and stuff is still thriving. When I say those 10 businesses, they are yours. They're being ran by individuals outside of that particular community at your discretion or whatnot. We're not saying that we're going to put a store manager in place or whatnot. That would be on you to ensure that your processes and stuff of that nature is taught and trained to those communities to ensure that your business is running the exact same way that you actually run it. But
let's say it's thriving. 10, and that 10 is thriving within the state, continually growing every year. You can take your business model as well as your growth to the regional financial council, right? They're going to do the exact same thing that the state financial council did. They're going to review all the numbers. They're going to take a look at it. They're going to look at the trends. If everything pans out, and then they will basically call everyone within that state, right? And what state within that region and say that, hey, you need to put at least one of these businesses in within your state. So you went from having one business to 10 businesses to 22. All of it's still yours. Still just putting in probably at this point 1% of what it is that you actually make to the community fund. Let's say that okay, it's still booming, and you're still growing. What happened is you can take that growth to the National Financial Council. Well, it's the National Council. They're going to review everything. They're going to look at the trends on a national level, right? And everything pans out. And then what happened is, and they will call the other 3 regions and have them set up your business, right? In every state in their region. So you'll go from one business to 10 businesses to 22 to 48, all at no cost to you. The thing is making sure that your business continues to grow and to thrive. The thing about it is, if your business hits the national scale, you don't even have to represent it for it to be pushed on an international scale. Business would be one of the ones that will automatically be looked at to go on an international scale once we look to go and do commerce on an international level. So there are several benefits to this ordeal for business owners. Like I said, it's for every network business as well as community businesses. Community businesses will be so. Industrial plants, I talked about this a little earlier. Industrial plants are defined as factories that mass produce natural resources or products. These supplied to all communities, as well as those things that will be used to generate income. State will be required to build a minimum of 1 industrial plant. State communities are capable of combining resources to start and maintain the IPs as well. Want to make sure that this is one of the things that we actually push. I'm not just talking about industrial plants, but manufacturing plants as well. I talked about it a little bit earlier as far as we need to make sure that when we competing on these levels that we're not basically sending our money outside of our community on the back end to make sure that we have places that produces the clothes. On every scale, even when we talk about cars, getting to the point where we're manufacturing our own cars, own vehicles across the board. And so these are, like I said, each state for the minimum of 1 industrial plant, either industrial plant or manufacturing plant. So transportation, very, 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 very important. Each region, East, Central, Mountain, and West will be responsible for producing transportation fleets. They need to have different fleets. 1 fleet for regional deliveries to communities, and then 1 fleet for national deliveries. The way it'll be set up is that each state will be providing a natural resource or a service into each community within the United States. When I say natural resource, okay, so I believe Georgia is the peach and Florida is the orange. Let's just say that those are the natural resources that state will be providing to the community and to all the communities, right? They have to ensure that
they produce enough to be able to provide unto each and every community within on a national scale, and that'll be across the board. Everyone won't provide an actual natural resource. It might be a service. It could be clothing or providing the fabric for clothing that is needed. It just depends on what particular state will actually be able to produce. But the region will be responsible for making sure that they have these fleets put together so that they can complete these deliveries. As far as local deliveries, and that will be handled at the state level. They will be responsible for ensuring that all the communities, transportation or transport to each community is handled on an internal basis. Warehousing, very, very important as well. Each state will be required to produce at least one warehouse, depot warehouse actually, per 10 communities. Colorado will have at a minimum 10 communities, so we will need to produce at least one depot warehouse. Each community will need to at least have one storage warehouse. You need to make sure they can store the food that they will have bringing in as well as coming out. System participants will be employed at regional and community warehouses as well. These warehouses that are constructed by the communities, they will be considered to be community businesses, as well as the industrial plants as well. Logistics. Each region will appoint/hire a regional logistics manager to coordinate and oversee all shipments and warehouse activities, as well as ensuring that they have a supply chain manager or warehouse manager for each and every last warehouse to oversee the day-to-day operations.
Okay, check this out. So, what are the different types of businesses again? You got the community business, and then what are the others?
There's only two types. You have community businesses and you have network businesses.
Okay.
So the community business would consist of construction, actually building and constructing the actual community itself.
No, community business can be anything really. It's the way that business is actually handled. So it's not owned by one individual. Community businesses are owned by the overall community. The actual community council and community financial council will oversee that particular business. Like I'll plan on talking about it a little bit later, but one of the businesses that we're looking at pushing is a grow and distro plant here in Colorado. The retail store will actually be a network. It's because it will actually be owned and operated by an individual, whereas the actual grow plant will be a community business because it will be owned and operated by the actual community. It's going to take start out with. It's going to take some selflessness for the community businesses.
And the network businesses, what's the difference?
Network are actually owned by one sole individual. So let's say, for instance, you have a business right now, and you want the business to be a part of BBOC, right? You'll be contract BBOC where you will put in your 1 to 3% of your gross. Or let's say, for instance, you go through the socialization program and you do your business plan, and your business plan is selected to be started up by the community. That business will be network business because it's actually yours.
Right, and but also will be matched with like-minded business owners and be under one umbrella. Yeah. Okay.
That is correct. If it's merged, if you have multiple business plans that are similar, then it will be merged into one. But if you have just one sole business plan, then it would be literally owned and operated for that one sole individual.
Okay, so two construction people don't have to merge.
If we start the business, they would have to mark. If BBOC,
That will be a community. The community in the community business, the like-minded business owners are going to merge all the businesses, all the similar industries and whatever. In the example of a clothing designer, we got 200 clothing designers in the communities. So if we want a community business that is a clothing business for the community, then all 200 of those people uh, would be under one umbrella for the community business. But anybody can have an individual business that is considered a network business. Okay.
But
yeah,
and
the only thing was that.
what I was going to say, and we can do that. Like say for like what Claim just said, and for us to have a personal individual business, it would be smart to have that business outside of the community, correct?
That's correct. That's the reason why I said our network businesses will actually be outside of the businesses because they're owned by a sole individual partnership. That's literally the difference. The difference between a network business and a community business is that it's owned by a sole individual or partnership versus being owned by the community.
Well, also we can also have a community business outside of the community. So, for instance, to say like a homeless shelter, and say we want to establish a homeless shelter in each state. You know what I mean? Just to say, this is what we do to give back to, pretty much the particular state. When it comes down to outside of our community.
Agreed. That definitely can be, but considering the fact that you actually own it and have started it, can still be considered a network business. I don't know whether you generate any income from it, but if you do, it can still be considered to be a network business. We just should make it mandatory for each state to do. Make sense?
Yeah, I got my questions answered.
Answering the question, can you make money? You can. I mean, it's not something to look at as a means of trying to become wealthy, so to say, but as far as being wealthy within the community, wealthy with the Most High, giving back those that's in need, yeah, you good to go.
That's one of our biggest services right there. One of our biggest services right there. I know as far as our people is concerned, one of the things that we're looking at is making sure that we don't have any of our brothers and sisters out there that's homeless or whatnot. But just because we take in our brothers and sisters don't mean that, we turn a blind eye to the rest of the people that's out there. So that's something that we definitely want to ensure that we are maintaining and doing within each and every last community. Not just the homeless, halfway houses, things of this particular nature. We want to ensure that
we call those transition homes. You know what I mean? Like transition homes for people that's coming out of the halfway homes, and in those particular type of programs. What's happening?
And we'll have programs with similar to that within the actual community for those that that are transitioning from out of imprisonment from this particular government. So, but we want to make sure that we cover our bases on both ends. So, international preparation. One of the biggest pieces is the eastern and western regions will manage ports and airlines. The reason why I say airlines versus airports is because we still want to make this an income generating business. So, of course, we'll have our own ports to make sure that we are prepared to be able to transport goods
to other nations outside of this particular country. But we want to make sure that we are able to generate income via cruises and stuff of this particular nature as well. And the airlines, although we will be able to use our airline depending on your position, either for free, very, very, very discounted rate, we want to still open it up to where people outside of our communities will be able to utilize our airline as well. So airlines as well as airports, or the airlines as well as our ports. Um, and we're not just talking about those pieces as well. We will have a busing system as well, or internal transportation system within the community, and we will have one outside of the community that we can generate funds from as well. But half of the income generated from these particular businesses will be divided equally between the states on a biannual basis. The other half will go into the national preparation for international socialization. So we're going to go ahead and take a 5-minute break before we go into the economic structure piece. That piece is about an hour long. After that piece is done, it'll be about 30 minutes left. My timing and stuff going pretty good thus far, but I'm gonna try and pick up the pace a little bit on the economic piece. So we'll go ahead, take a 5-minute break, come back at about 2:30, and give everybody the opportunity to go grab something to drink, use the restroom. I don't know about y'all, but I definitely have to use it.
Okay.
To go from there. All right.
You are now tuned in to Claim Your Inheritance, right? We're having an incredible build here. We done pulled up on BBOC. Yanaib, Yasharala. The man got the plan. The man with the plan. All right. So, get involved. Make this community the best you ever seen in your life. And there's no reason to fear this process because there are 20 to 30 brand new countries on Earth since the 70s. And so I have a video on that, the top 10 youngest countries on Earth. Check that out on Claim Your Inheritance on YouTube, and you'll realize that self-determination is possible. And of course, even if I were to compare this to we was kings or whatever, if I want to compare that to that, right? And say that in the entertainment industry, we took over music, okay? Rap took over the music industry. Okay, so of course it's being circumvented now, but that's neither here nor there. All right, so even in integration, which was a failure, right? Even with that, black people are all throughout every level of government for this country. All right, so we're in the city level, the county level, the police, all throughout the police. My city just finally hired its first black sheriff. Of course, we know that they have a tendency to think that um, profiling, their profiling is correct, but we work on that as often as we can, try to correct them from profiling. Um, and my business is construction business, so I have to work for the police all the time, you know. So and the sheriff, So I go to their houses. I know them. My uncle was a police officer for 15 years and retired a hero. So that's how that works. I grew up with police officers. So now, uh, I'm not saying that I'm gonna tell them any of my business. You know what I'm saying? Because they ain't supposed to tell them none of your business. But that's how it works. You gotta work with the community at large, and they are part of the community. So it's okay to take their money and serve them with whatever services that you have or goods that you have. All right. So that's what we're dealing with. We're going hard and we're working hard. So you guys get your communities together. Don't give us any advice on how to fix our communities because we already know what to do and we're actually doing it. You guys are just lip boxing and fighting amongst each other and arguing about one letter for 5 hours straight. So you're not supposed to do that. Supposed to be.
All right, I'm back. We got about another minute to give everybody a get back. We'll get started.
All right. Yeah, but if you're not excited by this, then you don't know what you're doing at all. You see, it's important to build, you know, and you guys want to spend all your time fighting. So please stop that. Get involved with us. Link up with us. We're transparent, and the plan that he's presenting is very flexible.
Forward. Next phase is economic growth. Going to be remaining 5 phases after this one are fairly simple to go through. Shouldn't take too long. Push through this as quickly as possible because I have another meeting coming up. 4 o'clock my time, so we got about an hour and a half to kind of push through the rest of this presentation. Economic growth is extremely important to the success of BBOC and our ability to grow on an international scale. So we have to make sure that we are basically doing what it is that we say we're going to do and grow on an economic scale as well. So I talked about this earlier. Current buying power, and this is just for African Americans as of 2017, which was 1.3 trillion, right? Average income for a household of 5 is approximately 56,000. That was as of 2015. So the approximate community income needed without any efficiency change, about 280 million per community. So what we're going to discuss in this area is how we can effectively lower this particular number and ensure that still maintain everything that we would need within the community, but still be able to effectively and efficiently house everyone, feed everyone, and continue to grow as a community. The average cost of healthcare per family is about almost 9,000 a year as of 2016. So for one community, healthcare alone would be about 41.7, almost 42 million. The average annual cost of utilities per family of five, and when we say utilities, we're just talking about lights. Uh, that's about 2,200 a year, which is about 11 million as of 2015. The average cost of daycare per, I could not even find an actual number. It was at least 7.2% was as of 2016. So we're looking at about 20.1 million for a family of five. So just cutting out these three things, it would take our numbers down to about 207 million, a little bit more than 207 million. So the goal is, how do we decrease this particular number by community? So the first step is through community funded workers. Community funded workers defined as an individual providing services to the entire community as a replacement of the traditional healthcare or daycare, etc. Those that are considered to be community founded workers, and these services will be provided to them at no they actually practice polygyny, then additional space will not be provided, but they will be able to receive it at a discounted rate as well as their daycare. So examples of community funded workers, and like now, these are just examples. It's not everyone. You have doctors, nurses, midwives, daycare providers, teachers, security force workers, agriculture attendants, and lawyers. Reason why I say it's not everyone, because you have things like dentists that would be considered to be a community funded workers, social workers, things of this particular nature be considered to be community funded workers as well. Quick breakdown of how it will actually go. So we will have at a minimum four per community, with at least one being a holistic doctor. We'll make sure that within that four, have one that specializes in pretty much everything. You'll have one that specializes in surgery and things of this particular nature. We'll have their pay rate not to exceed 60,000 on an annual basis. I know when you look at it, that considering what they would actually be to make outside of the community is way more. But when you look at what we're providing to them, on 60,000 on an annual basis for taking care of the community is more than sufficient. And this does not include the fact that they are able to have a practice outside of the community as well. Nurses, you have at least four per community. Um, Pay rate not to exceed 50,000 on an annual basis. Midwives, 4 to 6 per community. Pay rate not to exceed 50,000 on an annual basis. No, when you look at it, the numbers are low. We talked about the community being at the very least 20,000, no more than 25,000 per community, right? You know, how we will actually combat this is the method in which the doctors, nurses, and midwives will actually work together, right? What'll happen is, if by chance you get sick or something of that nature, you'll pick up the phone and you'll call whatever number that will actually be set up for the nurses, right? You'll call the nurses and they'll be the first one to come out to your house. You won't have to go to the doctor or to a clinic or something of that nature. They will actually come to you. The individuals that's on call, they will actually come to you, and when they will do the initial check. If it's something that they can actually handle on their own, then they will actually handle it on their own. If it's something that requires you to see a doctor, then they will set up an appointment for the doctor that's on call to actually come and see you. All pregnancies and stuff of that particular nature, so appointments, checking up on the individuals, that will be handled by the midwives. They will be their sole job, sole purpose, whatnot. So from the treatment that's given during the pregnancy to the actual deliveries that will be handled by midwives. So that's one thing that will actually be taken off of the doctor's plate. But that's how it will function and operate. Now, if it's something that you get seen by the doctor and it's an emergency that needs to take place, requires you to go to the hospital, there will be a hospital within the community, so they will ensure that you are transported to the hospital so that you can get services that will be taken care of there. So, your daycare workers, you have at least 15 per community, pay rate not to exceed 40,000 on an annual, right? Then you have teachers, 30 per community, pay rate not to exceed 45,000 on an annual basis. Your teachers as well as your daycare workers, they will work together the same way the doctors, the nurses, and the midwives will work together. We're looking at in our schools. I talked about this before in one of the previous presentations in reference to how everyone learns. You have three different methods. You have your audio, visual, and then hands-on. What happens is when your child um, is ready to go to school, right? They will basically test to see what is the method in which they learn, um, best method in which they learn, and they will go to a school that will be geared around that particular method. And it's understood that uh, you have individuals that can learn off of all the methods, or you have individuals that can learn off of two of the methods. It would just depend on which method is best for them. Um, Not something that would be mandated, but what will happen is we'll um, have the not council members, but you'll have your social worker or another individual that will sit down with you and will basically say that, hey, this is the best method in which your child learns. You have this option to actually go by and deal with, be on the parents to make the option on whether they want their child to go to that particular school or to another. Like as far as the learning, I talked about this before as well. How old your child will be has to be in order to go to school. We talk is one. Again, that will be left up to the parents. The parents will make the decision on whether their child's in a position to where they can go ahead and start school that young age. We will be ensuring that, of course, Hebrew is one of the top languages that will be learned, but there will be multiple languages that will be learned at very young age and throughout. We ensure that we want to bring back um, some of the trades. Um, we'll be ensure that we bring back some of the trades that have been taken from out of our schools. We'll those back. Um, we'll bring those back into the overall processes of our schools, in which individuals will be taught. We don't have a standard method as of right now. We just know without a shadow of a doubt that they'll be taught based off of the method which they best will learn about. So,
Okay. So now you said these jobs offset the $200 million cost. Now is that $200 million a year?
yep, on an annual basis.
Okay. And so I just want to offer a quick solution on there right quick before anybody tries
Okay.
to take my idea and so that I can remember it myself. And so um, these jobs can be itemized, right? And
Hmm.
sent to each uh, citizen, and they would have to pay $10 per job, and then we can have a rent situation that can offset that cost by probably about 30 to 40 million.
Okay. Can you do me a favor and shoot me an email in reference to it and explain it in a little bit more detail?
Absolutely.
All right, that'll definitely work. The next piece is the security force workers, right? You have 30 per community pay rate not to exceed 45,000 on an annual basis. Now, one thing that would be understood is that every able-bodied man within the community will be responsible for the security of community. Per community is the leaders of the security force workers, right? Security force workers will be broken down into 5 different sectors. You have community security, first aid responders, disaster relief, fire prevention, and evacuation team, right? So they will actually function. Let's say, for instance, let's look at um, Hurricane Harvey and our brothers and sisters that were displaced based off of that natural disaster. Instead of us having to wait for FEMA or whatever government program to come down there and assist or do our people bad, what happened is Hurricane Harvey happened in the Texas, is correct? And so the communities within Texas um, that were not hit affected by Hurricane Harvey, the first thing that happened is once we understand and know that a community has been hit or destroyed or is, needs assistance, then the state financial council will be responsible for contacting the communities within that surrounding area, sending their security force workers to that particular area to assist in evacuating our people from out of that area, which is the reason why I talked about the 20,000 to 25,000. We want to make sure that we stick close to the 20,000 rate so that but be able to house 25,000. So if everyone within that particular region, those communities are set at 20,000, but they can house 20, 25,000, we can have the evac team for that particular state and to basically evacuate our people to the communities within that particular state that was not affected until one or two things happen. Either we rebuild the community that was actually destroyed or damaged, or we build new communities to put these individuals into. Okay, so that is one of the methods in which the security force workers actually function and operate. And of course, God forbid, but if there's any danger, any community that is under attack of anything of this nature, the community financial council will call the state financial council and let them know what's going on, so that the security force workers, along with other volunteers within the community, can come and assist them in rectifying that particular situation. So, like I said, every able-bodied man within the community will actually be part of securing the community, but you will have 30 individuals that will be responsible for coordinating, qualified individuals that will be responsible for making sure that these responsibilities are handled and they should be. You'll have your agricultural attendants. It'll be 100 per community, pay rate not to exceed 40,000 on an annual basis. The reason why you have so many agricultural attendants is because these are the individuals that will be responsible for basically raising the cattle as well as farming the fields, and that will be utilized to feed everyone within the community. Of course, they will have anyone can volunteer their services to go out there and help and the agricultural attendants, but at the very least, we will have at least 100 per community, and that will ensure that everyone within the community is being fed. Lawyers, talking about 2 per community, pay rate not to exceed 50,000 on an annual basis. The lawyers within the community, they are responsible will basically be responsible for ensuring that the people within the community have representation. If someone is falsely accused of something outside of our community, then they will have a lawyer that is set up to where they can have the representation, someone that is knowledgeable and has so that they will have representation in court outside of our overall outside of our community. Right. Thing that I do want to point out in reference to lawyers is that there will be lawyers that will be connected to each and every council, and I'll talk about this a little bit later as well. So, but you will have lawyers that responsibility is for state law. Have lawyers whose sole responsibility is for federal law. Have lawyers whose responsible responsibility is international law. And this is to ensure that we cover our bases on free in every aspect. In every aspect. Of course, every last one of these, the lawyers, they have the ability to have their own office and firm outside of the community as well. But hopefully, we won't have to utilize we won't have to utilize them too often. So the annual expense per community would be about 8.1. Where it's just looking at these particular workers. So this would be one of the first expenses for the community that would have to be maintained community part. But when you look at the community businesses and the network businesses that will actually be putting into the pot, 8.1 million is it should be without any bigger issues. So the next piece of it is feeding the community. The overall goal is to feed every family within the community for free. For vegetation and grazing, it's going to at least take 1 to 2 years of harvest and grazing by initial startup. Be sure to remind me to send you a copy of the proposal because the proposal has the timelines and stuff of this nature, a more realistic timeline of how everything will actually flow through the overall process, even though I believe that it will catch fire and it's going to move way faster than what we actually anticipate. So make sure you shoot me an email and remind me to send you the proposal.
Done.
So it would be ideal for each state. This is what I talked about a little bit earlier. The best approach is for this is to have one grazing land per 10 communities. So Colorado, at the very least, will have 10 communities. So we will need at least one grazing land and to ensure that everyone within the community is able to receive meat. Each state will be responsible, like I talked about before, one natural resource that is common to their particular area. Not sure if everybody is familiar with Will Allen. He was a basketball player, but he came up with a process called our. We will attempt to either merge with the company or duplicate the system. In my opinion, 9 times out of 10, we're just going to duplicate the system because he's already well off and established, and trying to convince him to take the business and feed all our people. It's just not going to work. The duplicate system that he actually utilizes. This particular system, he came up with a method to be feed 10,000 people off of 3 acres of land. And I said each community would need at least 50 acres of land dedicated to feeding everyone within the community. How that 50 acres broken down at 22 and a half acres. This is the vegetation area within the outskirts of the community. 22.5 acres would feed 25,000 people 3 times a day. Then have 7.5 acres dedicated to feeding the homeless outside of the community 3 times a day, and 20 acres will supply the community grocery stores so that we can use that for business. business purposes. Okay. The crops, and stuff that that I'm looking at. Look at crops and stuff that I actually did a research on. I looked at the price ranges between them, range between one of the highest crops to the mid range. So we're looking at corn, soybeans, and hay. So what I did was I took the pricing for these three, I multiplied them by 4 to get 12 crops, and utilized the numbers from there. So the cost per acre on an annual basis is a little under 7,000. We're looking at 6,644. So we're talking about startup costs being approximately about 332,000 per community, a little bit more. So, grazing. One thing that I will, a vegan diet will be promoted. The reason being is because of some of the difficulties that we will encounter, potentially will encounter, and into naturally grazing using our animals. And the key word is naturally, because they do naturally. So being able to in a natural manner will be a little bit more difficult than what most people anticipate or look at. So the first animal that we're going to take a look at is cows. So non-dairy cow can produce basically 670 pounds of meat, which is equivalent to 10th ounces. Fun fact, it's 3 days to digest an 8-ounce steak. I like to put that in there because a lot of people don't know that. There's a lot of strain and work on the body, although that this is a clean animal for us to eat. It still puts a lot of wear and tear on our body when it comes to our digestive system. So the stuff that we eat, it should be able to flow and push through our body within a day. So again, like I said, vegan diet will be promoted, but we will ensure that we provide meat as well. So literally each community would need 223 cows to feed a community of 25,000 just once a month for a year. Once in 12 times out of the year, out of a cow. Say 223 cows. That's 40 ounces per family of 5. As far as milk is concerned, one cow can generate 20,000 pounds of milk per year. The caveat to be pregnant in order to produce that milk. So you would need 24 dairy cows to basically provide milk for a community of 25,000, 2 gallons of milk per family of 5 a week. Okay. The ability to reproduce. Will give birth to 1 calf per year, and it takes 2 years for the calf to develop into a. So we're talking about the turnaround, right? And you have 1 year, right, giving birth. Once they give birth, 2 years in order for that calf to develop into a fully grown cow. So we're looking at a 3-year turnaround time. 9 years that basically breed with up to 25. The hard part about that is that finding breeding cows is severely hard. So that is something that we have to definitely do our research on, and they're not cheap at all. We're gonna have to come out of pocket in order to secure it. Cows per acre on a mature pasture. When I talk about a mature pasture, it's grass that you've ever seen in your life, and of course these cows will have to be moved on this. But that would be the piece that the tend to actually take care of. The approximate startup cost for cows to get that's off the ground would be 738,000 per community. 40 ounces per family. We need 1,000 goats to feed 1,000 once a month for a year um, per family of 5. A meat from a goat is based on, so 50% of their weight equals a total amount that you get from actual goat. Average is 300 pounds, which is a boar goat. So you would get 150 pounds, which is 2,400 ounces of meat being produced by this particular goat. Or as their ability to reproduce, one goat will give birth to 1 to 5 kids per year. So that's a little bit better as far as being able to produce them. Their birthing period, how long they're actually pregnant, is about 5 months here for the lamb to develop into a fully grown goat. And one goat per goat can breed, but they can breed as young as 7 weeks. Good thing. So as far as being able to provide us with goat meat on a natural basis, it's a little bit more feasible when we talk about providing goat meat. So 10 goats per we need about 150 acres for community. Good thing is that all of the animals that we are going to actually discuss during this particular point and graze together. So this is the reason why we talked about having that grazing area outside of the community, so that we can ensure that they are being grazed in the method in which they actually should be naturally. For goats, it's about 375,000, which is not too bad per community. So, one lamb can feed up to 45 people. So we need 556 lambs or 25,000, and we're talking about the 3 appointed times, right? 3 appointed times that the 3 feasts that we're supposed to have, right? So one sheep will give birth to one calf per year, up to 3 and 2 years. It takes 1 year for the lamb to develop into a fully grown sheep. One ram can breed with up to 25 sheep, and they can breed as early as 5 months. So it's not as good as the goats, but um, still doable. You will need 30 acres per 100 sheep. So we'll need 510 acres to graze these sheep properly. So we talk about a grazing area. Grazing area at the minimum would need to be 600 acres, but not probably more. I would say at the very least, at least 1,000 acres of land for the grazing area. So startup costs for a sheep is just under 400 hornet fees only. Chicken. One chicken can feed one family of 5. Takes 2 days, 7 hours to digest 250 grams of chicken. I know when I researched this, I was heartbroken because chicken is one of my favorite meats. But this is again one of the reasons why I say a vegan diet would be good. One hen can produce 1 egg per day, so we need 25,000 hens or to provide eggs for a community. 50 chickens slash hens per year. So startup cost for chicken slash hen would be about 875,000 per community. Turkey. 2,000 turkeys will feed a community of 25,000, 1 meal per month. Typically, one 24-pound turkey can feed 3 families of 5. average weight of a domestic turkey is about 11 to 24 pounds. So we want to make sure that when we are raising these um, grazing turkeys, that we want to get them as fat as possible. One turkey can produce 50 eggs per year, so their ability to reproduce is very, very, very good. Um, 10 acres per 200 turkeys, so literally we would need about 500 acres to maintain a community. Startup costs about 561 thousand, bit more. Now, as far as fish is concerned, this is the reason why I talked about not necessarily having to be around a water source, is because we can actually build our own grazing lake or water source. Um, I recommend, regardless of whether you buy a water source or not, that you still build a grazing lake, because this will give you the ability to be able to graze plain fish that we can actually eat. And the average cost of it is fairly cheap. It's about 5 to 10,000 per acre. Of course, you won't need an acre of land or actual water source, so the price on that is fairly cheap. So when we look at the entire scope of things, it's about 3.2 and 3.2, almost 3.3 million for the approximate startup cost feeding the community. It's not too bad. Housing community, something completely different. Um, Approximate cost to house a community of 25,000. That's 5,000 families. Looking at about 750 million per community. 5,000 families of five, and that is looking at about 150,000 per self-sustaining home. All right. And the key is, what can we do to cut into this cost? I'll give you a couple of examples. Self-sustaining, energy efficient homes will have several different types. The first type that we're going to talk about is earthships. These are best for hilly or mountainous areas, but they can be utilized in flat areas. Well, this is an example of an earthship. I'm pretty sure that most people are not accustomed to seeing houses that look like this or that are made like this, but these are highly unique houses, especially in the method in which they are, they actually utilize and maintain their heat and their autonomy.
Where the rooms?
They say, where the rooms? They're in there, literally. They're there in there. Right here is an example of how Earthship actually works, right? So, of course, you're using solar panels as well as turbines to provide your energy. There is literally a funnel that goes from inside the house all the way to the back end of the house to funnel heat and cool air. Well, the materials that is utilized is basically materials that store heat as well as cool air. Your water source that is used. Basically, there's a tank on the back end that rainwater as well as snow and things of this particular nature will be refiltered into the house for you to use as drinking water, as well as be able to shower and things of this particular nature. The way that your sewage and stuff is set up is basically filters back into the land. You should be able to see it. If you look at the toilet, that goes straight down and back into the land. So the ability to having to purchase manure and things of this particular nature would not be necessary. Not, it's pretty cool when you look at it. Just that I don't think that this is something that most people would be accustomed to living in. Like I said, when you look at this picture right here, it's not something that most people are accustomed to actually seeing. So we want to make sure that whatever it is that we choose, the type of housing that we choose, um, something that we as a people are accustomed to actually living in. Yeah. The second Piece is the crop thorn autonomous house. It's best for areas with a lot of sunshine. This is an example of the crop thorn autonomous house. Um, the materials that is utilized for the crop thorn autonomous house, of course, is used so that it can maintain and house heat as well as cool air, and within the summer. Yeah, it also functions and operates off of solar panels. That's what you're seeing at the top of the roof. If you look at the roof is a little the what's the word for it? The angle of it is not the same type of angle that you would see on a normal roof. It's kind of a little more steep. The reason for this is because the same way that the Earthship utilizes rainwater and stuff of this nature for the house, the crop thorn house does the exact same thing. And so the reason why the roof is that way is so that it can capture as much rainwater as possible. Um, I'll go into the next slide so that you can see the cellar, which is the bottom areas where all of the rainwater and stuff is utilized. And then you have a pump that pumps that water, that purifies the water and pumps that water back through the house for you to consume and utilize for your day-to-day uh, services, but basically being able to clean and clean yourself, things of this particular nature. The ground floor, that is where the majority of like your living room and stuff of this nature. You can have rooms on that floor as well, but the majority of the rooms is on the top floor. As far as are concerned, you don't have an actual regular toilet. You have a toilet that has no water system for you to be able to flush. There is a compost that is used to basically decompose the waste, and so they can be reutilized into the earth or into the area where we utilize where we grow our vegetation. The last piece is the passive house estate. These are best for townhomes. Um, this is an example of what the passive house estate looks like. It looks like regular townhomes that some of us are accustomed to actually living in. Um, and this process can not only be used for homes and townhomes, but also for businesses as well. Normally, I would show a video on this, but the video is kind of on the long side, so I pulled it from out of it. But if you would like to send the videos or see the videos, just shoot me an email, and I'll definitely send you a link to it. Um, these are the floor plans for it. As you can see, you have 3 bedrooms, well, bedrooms and the bathrooms on the first floor. Ground floor, you have your living room, your kitchen, and your technical area as well. It can have multiple stories. I think the biggest one that I've seen is like 6 stories. It was an apartment complex. Um, very, very, very nice on the inside. And of course, everything that is utilized on the inside is to ensure that it is able to house and store heat as well as cool air, depending on the season. So one of the other things that we want to look at is electricity. Of course, solar panels, regardless of whatever one that we utilize, I think the combination of all three would be the best. Other forms as well, I've looked at container homes. Talks with another brother that is building container homes right now. My thing is being able to figure out whether those container homes can be converted into autonomous homes, because we want to ensure that we're not having to rely on any government services for electricity, power, water, things of this particular nature. But solar panels will definitely be used. You need about 18 per house of 2,500 square feet. 100 panels per home, so we're looking at about 1,800 per home, about 9,000. But of course, we can decrease that number I want to say by recycling, but more so on the wholesale side of the house. And of course, as we grow and on an economic level and start producing a little bit more, and then communities can come together and buy the purchase the wind turbines. I'm talking about the massive ones that you see out in the fields. One turbine can, depending on the size of it, can basically take care of one or two communities, and they range between 6 to 12 million per community. It's more than feasible, one-time fee. Now, one of the most important things to economic growth is our ability, our business's ability to grow. Now, the overall goal, right, is to be able to come up with one business, create one community business, to be able to basically net enough and provide for each region altogether. I'm talking about every last community. Trend watching would be imperative to this happening. As of right now, not sure if everyone is familiar with it, but marijuana is one of the hottest trends that is out there right now. According to Forbes, the United States generated 6.7 billion in medical marijuana and is projected to make 20.2 billion in sales by 2021. This is just medical marijuana. 29 of the 50 states are legalized, with only, at the time that I did this, it was 7 states that are legalized to do recreational use outside of DC. But as of January 1st, California became number 8. And so the yearly income, once it's legalized on a federal level, talking about 420 trillion, 420 plus trillion legalized on a federal basis. So we need a percentage of that. Remember, we talked about 1.3 trillion is the buying power that we have right now, right? So we can get a small percentage of it. We only need 1%, for us to generate enough income to be able to provide for each and every last community. This is something that we are in the works now. I have the majority of paperwork and stuff. Well, the majority of it, I have all the paperwork and stuff filled out. It's just a matter of securing a location and the land in order to start the first this community business. This is something that we're working on within the Colorado, the state of Colorado right now. And the thing about it is, it has to be done now, because once they legalize it on the federal level, then your ability to do marijuana is going to be like slim to none. All the businesses is already up and going right now. As far as grow plants are concerned, those will be the businesses that will be supplying everyone else. As far as being able to start up a retail store or something of that particular nature, they'll be able to do that at will. But we all know that the suppliers are the ones that generate the most income anyway. So that is the community store that we're looking at starting as potential piece to be able to provide income community within the BBOC. So of course, one of the other things is to make sure that we identify 10 community businesses that have good trending factors. Each community will purchase stock into these businesses. That started the business will have a controlling percentage. No companies outside of the community will be able to buy into business prior to the introduction into the stock market. It's a key behind this, right? I'll talk about each community will purchase stock into the businesses, right? We want to make sure that we maintain a controlling factor of each business that we have out here, right? And so, in essence, we're going to allow about 10% of any company to be bought, via stock market. Everything else will strategically be purchased. Of course, the National Financial Council will work with the other financial councils to ensure that we set it up to where we can accomplish this. Like I said, the Financial Council plan to ensure that all actions/plans are executed, and the Financial Council will monitor all the trends and present to the Regional Council all actions and plans to be carried out. There's another piece to this, which is the Vacant Home Project. Residual income is one of the top priorities for each community. So the Vacant Home Project is one of the methods in which we will utilize to provide residual income. And this is something that will be started at the same time that the initial communities will be set up. The Vacant Home Project will kick off as well. So what will happen is all the vacant homes within the outskirts of the communities that we set up will be purchased and will be reutilized as income generating property, be revitalized and refurbished so that they can be used as income generating properties. And these will be some of the areas in which the individuals, when they're going through the socialization program and they have to be moved out for temporary housing, will actually reside. We're not just going to look at houses, but we're talking about apartment complexes, duplexes, things of this particular nature, because they provide the best net income. When you talk about a house or whatnot, you might be able to net maybe $500-$600, depending on whether it's owned or whether it's not. Versus if you have an apartment complex and that is maybe 10 units or whatnot, and you're getting $500, $500-$600 per unit, and this actually going back into the community. Okay. And like I said, and the focal point won't just be houses; it'll be apartments, condominiums, homes, and duplexes. You know, these are the things that we actually going to look at. Ooh. Banking. One bank/credit union will be utilized by all communities. We'll ensure that this is started outside of the Federal Reserve, and it's more than possible of being able to do. We want to formulate our monetary system to be utilized within the community. The goal is to expand our monetary system to where it is recognized and can compete and rival some of the monetary systems that are out there right now. We'll invest a percentage of the funds to be put into our banks to purchasing gold, silver, diamonds, basically things that are tangible, that draw that basically growing interest on a daily basis. All right, and then a portion of that will be put back into each account. Right, put back into each account for interest, so that people can build interest, and the other portion will be utilized again to continue to purchase more tangible items that actually we will actually be to use to back our monetary system. Monetary notes must be agreed upon by the regional heads and state council as well as the national council. The interest applied accounts again is through the investments, and no interest will be charged to anyone that lives within a community. If you go to a bank, start a business or whatnot, and you borrow 50,000, then 50,000 is what you're going to pay back. But of course, if you're outside of the community, you will be charged interest on whatever it is that you borrow. Judicial resolve. Each state legal team will work on getting the legal interests to be legalized. The regional council will work with the state council to put together the legal team, and to ensure that some of the that they push for laws that would benefit the agenda of people, i.e., polygyny, sovereignty, title laws for police accountability, and etc. And once, you know what I'm saying, we begin to win these particular cases on the judicial side of the house, then we will take it on the legislative side of the house and ensure that we enforce that into law. This is just for a temporary ordeal or whatnot. Like I said, the overall goal is to ensure that we establish ourselves as a nation so that we have sovereignty where we are actually at. But in the meantime, we want to ensure that we set up things to ensure that we can function and operate as a people without having the issues and stuff that we have for one moment.
That's a point clarification there. So people are concerned about that, but as we build, we get harassed by the police everywhere we go, and we want to be able to influence the political structure. So we have a political body that has the power to influence the political structure, and we're going to do so. This is a stark contrast to the culture that we have now, where the political bodies of the schools are completely separate from influencing the systems that harass us and govern us, and so the same holds true with the NOI and the Fruits of Islam. They don't influence the political structure at hand. They do influence media, but they do not influence the politics.
My apologies, my wife had a quick question, but I definitely agree with you. Like I said, it's a temporary ordeal. It's just a temporary ordeal, but that's what we're looking at. That's what we're looking at, and be able to push through it. We'll definitely be able to push through it. But like I was saying, we'll ensure that what we win on the judicial side, that we push it over to the legislative side, so that we can have some resolve on that end temporarily until we set ourselves up as an overall nation. This is something that we're working on even right now as we speak. So it's just part of the process and reestablishing ourselves. So normally that'll be where I take a 5 minute break. We have um, about 20 minutes left altogether. Either we can push through, or if you need to use the restroom or something of that nature, we can go ahead and take a break.
I'm good.
All right. If everybody good, we're gonna push. All right, so internal trading. Each state will identify a primary good to service to all the other states. This is what we talked about a little earlier. Each community within their primary state will be responsible for creating trade routes throughout the state. State and financial council will determine the trading system within their respective states. But that system, like I talked about in the beginning, must correlate with the national system. Each state will need to purchase enough land to produce / manufacture their identified goods. So whatever it is, whether it is a natural resource or whether it's a service, they need to ensure that whatever it is that they need in order to provide for every community that is up, and that it is funded and provided for. Um, so that's going to lead us straight into interstate trading. The regional council, with the assistance of the state council, will establish a national trade system that will ensure that all necessary goods needed for all communities will be provided. Basically, the region is going to make sure that they purchase enough land so that they can transport these particular goods into each and every sector, each and every region on a national scale. No matter what it is, whether it's food, whether it's a good or whether it's a service. They need to make sure that they need to make sure that they need to make sure that they can actually provide for that. Right. So, international community building. All right. Once everything is established, and I talked about this in the beginning. Right, we're working on it now, but we need to make sure that once we fully establish that we show ourselves friendly to the other nations and stuff out here, right? We want to spark those international relations, and our international relations will not be based off of this particular government. Okay, now just because this government that we live in now have issues with a particular area does not mean that we will have issues with that particular area. Now, and the biggest goal here is making sure that we establish our monetary system and be one of the top priorities. Sure that whatever our monetary system is, it is accepted in each and every last one of those areas. But I'm going to list qualified individuals to start those particular relations. Or not. That would be their job, and to go to each and every as community where our people were actually taken to establishing relations there, as well as spreading the word of the up and coming communities that we're going to actually build. So the same type presentation that we're doing right here, right now, to help um, open up our people eyes here in the states to what's coming, what's on the horizon. They're going to do the exact same thing. Get them prepared. So we'll move straight into international trading. This is basically when we start doing commerce. By this particular time, we're going to have to make sure that our monetary system is strong. Time we start doing commerce, we need to make sure that is established, is recognized, and is something that we can utilize outside of the monetary system that we actually have now. Okay? Half of the funds that's made on the international market will be set aside into a separate pot, to an international pot, so those assets can be utilized to start the first communities. A third of the amount will be used to purchase assets to establish international wealth, i.e., land, gold, silver, platinum, etc. I'm not just talking about here in the U.S. I'm talking about on the international scale. We're looking at purchasing land, throwing out gold, things of tangible, things that are tangible that we can utilize to help back our monetary system as well. Then the last piece is international socialization, right? Once all of this has been accomplished, once we establish ourselves on the international market, and we're into commerce, and we're starting to generate funds and income on the international scale, and we have the initial startup for the first communities on the international scale, that's when we will actually get with our brothers and sisters that are still out there and provide them with the funding that is needed in order for them to start their first communities there. Of course, we're gonna have to do some tweaking to the process here and there because, of course, same way state has its own set of laws that we'll have to tweak here and there. International scale, we're gonna have to do the exact same thing. So the process and stuff we might have to tweak it here and there, but for the most part, it's gonna be the same. So what'll happen is those relationships, like I talked about before, that we built on a international level. I'm not going to say that they will be severed, but they will be pushed to, okay, if you want this good or this service that we was providing you, you have to go through this community that our brothers and sisters have set up right there. We'll use that as a strategy so that they can build wealth within the area that they are at, and we'll be able to establish ourselves not just as a nation with here in the U.S., but as a nation whole around the world.
Every white person in this room who would be happy to be treated as this society in general, it's our citizens, our black citizens. If you, as the white person, would be happy to receive the same treatment that our black citizens do in this society, stand. Didn't understand the directions. If you white folks want to be treated the way blacks are in this society, stand. What are you standing here? That says very plainly that you know what's happening, but you don't want it for you. I want to know why you're so willing to accept it or to allow it to happen for others.
You can have all the money in your hand, all the possessions anyone can ever have, but it's our worth of expression. True worth is only measured not by what you got, but what you got in your heart. You can have everything. What you need, it all means nothing. You can just trust us. You got to walk that walk. Yes, you do. And you can look in the mirror, our love is looking back at you. Define the life isn't now all what you take and what you keep. And if you bet on love, there's no way you'll ever lose. Take a stand, make a stand for what's right. It's always good, always worth the fight. It all means nothing. If you don't stand up for something, you can't just cross the top. You got to walk that far. Yes, you do. And all means nothing. If you don't stand up for something,
Alrighty. So, question is, are you? Why now? I talked about in the beginning. This is something. BBOC is concept, not a business, um, not an organization, anything of that nature. It is a concept that will be utilized in order to reestablish ourselves as a people, as a community, and eventually as a nation on an international scale. and it requires all of us. Don't care what it is that you do that's out here. It's nothing too small or nothing too great that can't enhance what it is that we are actually doing. Why now? Question is not so much of why now, but why not now? The vast majority of us, regardless of what it is that we believe, we all go through the exact same, one way, shape, form, or fashion. So to ensure that we can, at the very least, agree upon that, so that we can build and grow together as a people. And so I employ everyone that's out there um, to not just be a part of it, to get the word out there. For the next over the next year, actually, myself as well as my team will be going out on presentations on a national scale. It will be at that particular time that we will have the applications for people to be fill out, start the socialization program, and we'll go into more detail in reference to the socialization program and what all you will be encountered, so that when the first communities and stuff are built, and those temporary housing and stuff is complete, we'll be able to start filtering people into the program, so that we can continue to grow, continue to move forward. People out there that actually own businesses or and things of this nature, we employ you to go ahead and become a part of the process. Um, Way to be able to grow it is that you have already established. For my people out there that have excellent ideas, but don't have the capital to be able to do it, we coming for you, coming for you. So um, now is the time. Now is that time. Like I said before, what is it? What is it going to take? What is it going to take? If we own the business and we invested so much capital into this business, but that business that we started or not is not providing or even giving back the actual capital that we put into it, what will we do with that business? Either we're going to get rid of it altogether and start something else, or we're going to make the necessary changes needed in order for us to be able to grow the business. I say same thing in reference to us as a people. Look at everything it is that our ancestors had to go through, from the bondage of slavery, Jim Crow laws, everything, and the things that we're going through right now. Question to everyone that is listening is: do you feel like that the warranted investment that our ancestors, grandparents, parents, and even some of us have invested to us as a people, we have received a return on? Your answer is no. We need to come together and we need to work as one people, so that we can get the return on investment that has been promised to us, and that we are destined to actually receive. So at this point, we don't have any other. Do we have any other questions?
No questions on
Everything that
mine.
we went over. Say again.
No questions over here.
All righty. I want to thank everybody that actually came out. I appreciate my brother for posting this live on his Google page. It's New Jerusalem, correct?
That's the channel that I'm going to be migrating to. So the channel that I've been on for years is Claim Your Inheritance on YouTube. Claim Your Inheritance. Yep.
If you don't mind, take a quick second to explain to everybody about your app.
Okay, so I have an app called that is facilitating a private club called Club of New Jerusalem, right? And so uh, want to be able to have a representative to lead the political body of people who self-identify, who know who they are, and who accept the wonderful Son as the Son of God. So um, that political body is hundreds of millions of people around the world. You know, it could be in the number of billion or 2 billion or something like that. I don't know. But the self-identifying people out of that number is still unknown to me. So it could be close to maybe 200 million people at my last estimate. And so these people around the world who deal with religion get stuck in a paradigm where they're not represented by the locations, the board of locations that have their own power structures and hierarchies in place. So this political body needs to have a leader to voice uh, the concerns of that political body to the other nations. So the app aids and assists in that, choosing and electing one leader to voice the political concerns of that political body, and then you could vote on minor, things that we all care about as well, and it's free. So it's on Google Play. It's only on Android right now, and it's on Google Play. Where you go to Google Play Store and you type in Club of New Jerusalem, and you go down to the apps, and it's there. You can just download it to your Android device. I'll be getting it on iTunes for your iPhone and Windows and BlackBerry. So,
Alrighty, I got definitely thank you for that. I made sure that I push it as well. Um, have your email and all your contact information, so promote it as well on my page, as well as whenever we get a BBOC page set up, we'll promote it there as well. I actually have the app. Went through a couple of pieces of it, but I haven't been able to get through the entire thing for what I've seen. I like what I've seen, so I applaud you, commend you on what it is that you actually built, created.
whatever about
But my contact information that's up on the screen right now. If you have any other questions pertaining to BBOC in the process, or you have any ideas or want to help in any way, shape, form, or fashion, just give me a call or sadly speak with you. So again, say you to everyone that is our time. Shalom.
Shalom. Okay, you've been in tune to claim your inheritance. We pulled up on your name, Yasharala, again. And again, he was ready. See what I'm saying? So, you know, some of the people we attract over here at Club New Jerusalem, people who don't play no games, okay? So you can continue playing with yourself. You know, it's not going to satisfy you for long. You got to build something for your great, 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 great grandkids. You understand? 28 generations from now. Gotta build something that's gonna last. So, the stuff that you are saving up right now, you probably can't save anything. Probably 1% of you or less than 1% of you even pass down an inheritance to your children. So we have an actual inheritance that exists now that our family has passed down the ages. And it reached to the hand of an incompetent person who deposited our fortune into banks. Yeah, because he didn't he didn't think the banks would screw him over. So we got a situation where the laws are in place to secure a particular amount of our own family's inheritance and family fortune that have been stolen by the Rothschilds because of this incompetent buffoon that's uh, depositing our family's inheritance into banks. The banks are wholly 100% controlled by the Rothschilds. Okay, so people think that they are the richest family on the face of the planet because we gave them all of our money. And since we gave them all of our money, they think they can steal it. But we got news for you. You can't steal our family inheritance. It's impossible. But you using it very well, and I'm glad you are. You are investing it. Okay, so now when the rightful heir to that fortune comes to reclaim the money, you better be ready to hand it over. You understand? Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. So that's what I've been noticing. Okay, I've been noticing very prudent investments. Okay, by way of our birth certificates and things of that nature, to where they are amassing fortunes for the inevitability of this family, Israel, to remember who they are and claim their inheritance from the hijackers and the colonizers. So, whenever a portion of that is released or claimed by a person, you are obliged to hold the United States unaccountable for their actions because they have invested uh, your family's fortune for your benefit. So you have the opportunity to claim that fortune, you see? And we'll be sitting here waiting on you. You know, if you're not involved in this program here, you're insane. Okay, so um, as a whole or on large in our community, we have some people saying this and saying that and saying that uh, they want to aid and assist the downfall of America. Okay, by speaking the words "death to America" and all that good stuff. So that's immature because the book explicitly tells us to pray for the leaders of the governments. Okay, so it says that the leaders of the governments are a scourge unto the wicked, right? And they themselves are wicked. Okay, so we have to guide them in the proper direction, just like all of our ancestors guided varying superpowers in the proper direction. We even influenced Assyria to be converted. You understand that? Maybe you don't, but that is a very powerful thing. So catch us next time. We'll be right here, and we appreciate everybody who's listening. Well.